everybody. We are the History Boys. I am Christopher Whedon. I am a history boy. And before we introduce the others, I would like to say our good friend Zach Mack isn't with us today.
He's missing.
He's out touring.
Yeah.
He's in regular Alan touring.
Yeah.
Touring.
He's a bit of a tourist.
Yeah, by which I mean he's been chemically castrated.
I thought you meant that like he was building a computer.
Mm-hmm. He's building
Also
a computer to spy on the Germans.
Yeah, tell him the war's over.
The war never ended in his head.
Yeah.
The war's not done for Zach. That's why he is gone.
Yeah.
And we miss him.
He's gone off to fight the Germans.
Yeah. Are we ever going to be together for spooky season?
I don't think so.
That was the rule.
Someone's always going to be out, except for Jerry, because we kind of need to have him here for spooky season.
You don't want me doing the research.
And by the way, I'm Tyler, aka Giorgio Van Grelden, aka History Boy. Throwing my hat in the arena, doing Zach's job. So for the next 7 episodes, if the audio sounds less than perfect, there's nobody else to blame but me.
Yeah. So you blame Zach for leaving.
Yeah,
we warned him.
Yeah,
we warned him. We're like, Zach,
we're gonna mess it up.
Gonna suffer.
Yeah.
He's like, it'll be fine, and listeners, you can hear. Yeah. He was wrong. It's not.
Jerry, who are you?
I am Jerry.
Yeah, but who are you?
Nash. You're humble.
You are not
history
your
boy.
name.
Yeah, I know. Who are we really?
Yeah, if you think about it.
I'm Jerry Nash, your humble history boy. As always, thank you so much for listening. And this, my friends, my history boys.
I'm a history boy.
Is episode 1 of Spooky Season. It's the most wonderful time of the year.
It is. It's the second most wonderful time of the year.
It's not only the first episode of Spooky Season, it's also Volume 2 of Spooky Season.
Yes.
The first Spooky Season episode of The Terrible Twos.
Oh. Auga.
Yeah.
I don't know. You got a year before you got to deal with that, Tyler, so you got to mentally prepare.
Yeah. And
that kid's going to destroy everything you love.
Anyhow.
Brutal.
So we're starting this one off right, gentlemen.
Okay.
We are going to talk today about Mr. Edgar Allan Poe.
Look, he's sneaking right up on me with his big old forehead.
This big old dome.
Yeah.
Put him in a headlock.
And trust me, we can smell our own from one big forehead guy to another. He probably used to have a lot more hair.
Just grow it out, Tyler, and you're getting there.
It slides back, man. It slides back, goes all the way down the back of your head and right onto your ass.
Just get some real wild and crazy hair, you know?
Maybe run for president and be a game show host.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, not in that order.
Yeah.
Getting political.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Politics Podcast.
Yeah.
Meow. I don't know what that sounds.
Wow.
Now, Edgar Allan Poe is one of the most influential writers in history. He has influenced more than just literature. His work has inspired movies, music, video games, and likenesses that have to do with his stories and himself appear on t-shirts, coffee mugs, plush toys, keychains, and numerous other tchotchkes.
Well, you were just talking there. I was just like, he's from Baltimore, right? Or lived in Baltimore?
He lived in Baltimore, but he lived in a lot of places.
It just occurred to me that's probably where the Baltimore Ravens come from.
It does come from that,
I never thought of that until just this second.
It does absolutely come from that.
I was like, he's a regular Baltimore Raven, and I was like, oh
shit. Yeah.
Do you think the owner of the Baltimore Ravens is just a really big Edgar Allan Poe fan, or?
I mean, he did trap bury his nemesis behind a brick wall in his basement.
You know, the thing about the lasting power of Edgar Allan Poe, I think, is entirely because he wrote horror stories that went into the public domain, and so there was just all of the Hammer Brothers films from or Hammer films. Yeah. I got Shaw Brothers and Hammer films put together. But
you're thinking of the bad guys from Mario Brothers.
From Mario Brothers, who are also prolific filmmakers in their own time. But yeah, all the ones with Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing and whatnot.
And I mean Vincent Price.
Yeah.
There was all those movies that they did like the Black Cat and the Raven and shit like that. Mask of the Red Death.
I got a couple black cats.
There you go, yeah.
That's why your luck's so bad.
Mm-hmm.
You're constantly crossing your path.
Chris and crossing back and forth.
You're like, it's getting worse and worse.
Well, I feel like if they cross again, it negates it. So
you got to time it right.
I don't remember where we're at, but it's in the hundreds. So.
Yeah. Now, Poe's work, of course, is known for its darkness, its profound sadness, and horror. Although he is the best known and most read writer in the Western Hemisphere today, his life was one marked by tragedy and poverty.
Lots of stub in his toe.
Yeah, lots of black cats crossing his
path.
Yeah, big time.
Big time, bumming his big fucking head on things.
Well, it started out small. He just kept on bumping into things, and every time the bruise just stacked.
Yeah.
It's like, don't touch it. It's tender.
Now, Edgar Poe was born the second of 3 children to the
Middle
actors. Yep. To the actors David Poe Jr. And Elizabeth Eliza Arnold Hopkins Poe on January 18th, 1809 in Boston, Massachusetts.
Okay. So he's a middle child.
He was a middle child, yes.
Malcolm in the Middle's based off him.
He had an older brother and a younger sister.
So he's a freckled ginger who's like Catholic and has a short fuse. Oh wait, I got Edgar Allan Poe mixed up with Bill Burr again.
Very similar.
Both Boston guys,
Yeah.
Yep. His older brother's name was William Henry Leonard Poe, and his younger sister was Rosalie Mackenzie Poe. Now, this is kind of funny. His grandfather, on his father's side, was known as, quote, General, unquote, David Poe Senior. Now, that was an honorary title because David Poe Senior had served as quartermaster to General Marquis de Lafayette during the Revolutionary War.
That's a good connection. So basically, people keep taking Lafayette's name. He took his title. The other guy, what's his name? James Armistead.
Yeah. As actors, though, his parents were not considered high society during this time.
Just like Malcolm in the Middle.
They were well known. Actors were looked down upon for most of human history.
Yeah, as they should be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Singing at me during the pandemic, trying to make me feel better.
God, that was like the worst thing that happened during the pandemic, other than the pandemic.
Other than the deaths.
Yeah.
By the way, I wish there were more episodes of Malcolm in the Middle where they had to fit in with high society. That's all I really want. I want a high end auction, and it's all people in tuxedos and then Hal.
I want one where Edgar Allan Poe, I guess, instead of he's Malcolm in the Middle and he's trying to see if he should date the hot rich kid, or like the kind of nerdy kid that's in love with him.
Yeah, and he doesn't see what he has, right in front of him until the end of the movie.
No, he ends up with a rich girl. We just watched Pretty in Pink.
Oh, I see.
A rich guy. She ends up with a rich guy at the end of that one.
That's bullshit.
Yeah.
That's not what's supposed to happen.
That's what really happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, the friend that's in love with her is, like, he's John Cryer, and he's dressed weird the whole movie.
Yeah.
And let's talk about this instead.
Yeah.
So,
welcome to the Ducky Cast.
80s classic.
80s classic, Pretty in Pink.
Yeah.
Skip it.
Yeah.
I like the Edgar Allan Poe one where they make a girl on their computer.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's another Edgar Allan Poe dark horror story that they dressed up in the 80s.
Home Alone is based off Telltale Heart.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway, now, Eliza Poe was extremely talented. She was a very talented actress and singer, and by all accounts, very, very beautiful.
Cool.
David, on the other hand, David Jr., was not good. And he probably suffered from stage fright.
Oh.
There was actually a review back in the day that was like, Eliza Poe, my goodness, she was amazing. David, on the other hand, and this is a direct quote, was literally nothing.
Oh, wow.
That's brutal.
It's brutal. He was nothing. I don't know. I didn't feel a goddamn thing about
yeah.
it.
It wasn't bad enough to, like, laugh at.
No, it was
That would be better.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. He was a non-factor.
Yeah.
He was like, I was playing a tree, so I appreciate the criticism. It means I was doing my job.
Now, when Eliza was pregnant with Edgar, the family was pretty low on money. David Jr. had a drinking problem.
Cool.
Drank the family's money away.
He had a senior-sized drinking problem by the sound of things.
She was actually diagnosed with tuberculosis while she was pregnant with Edgar.
Consumption.
Yeah. They were very, very poor while Edgar was like 1 year old, and then his sister was born. His father, David Jr., was abusive, and he became an even worse alcoholic. He actually abandoned the family in July of 1809.
It's like radio flyer.
Yeah.
Wait, the dad abandoned the family?
He was abusive and alcoholic.
He was abusive, yeah.
But, I mean, I just like the fact that he's like, I'm so alcoholic, I'm just going to keep on keeping on. Go be an alcoholic over here now. You guys are literally better off without me. So
it's the best thing you could have done for him.
Yep.
Honestly, probably. But Eliza Poe became very, very sick with tuberculosis, and she could no longer work, so they didn't have any income. The papers took notice, and they were like, Eliza Poe's really sick, and everyone got really concerned over her children. She actually died of TB in front of her children.
She was consumed.
On December 11th, 1811, Edgar was 2 years old, and his father died just 2 days later.
He doesn't remember any of it.
No, he doesn't. But he probably still had like a lingering, hey, your mother died. She was a beautiful actress, but she got this sickness and died. It was sort of this lingering thing.
I hope it's not, just because I plan on walking around Porky Pignet in front of my son until he's at least 3 or 4, because I don't think he's going to remember it. And so
you do whatever you want.
If he grows up and he's like, there's something I just don't like about my dad. He's giving me a real Porky Pig vibe, and not in the hilarious Looney Tunes way.
Yeah.
In the grown man walking around cavalierly in front of a child. It's just because when I'm in the same house, I'm changing, getting out of the shower, I'm like, he's not going to remember it.
But yeah, a lot of people, they took up a collection to pay for her final expenses, and they were like, what are we going to do with these orphans now? And a bunch of people offered to take them, so they split up the kids. His sister went to one family, his brother went to another. Edgar went to Francis and John Allen when he was 2 years old.
The spookiest family friends that...
Oh yeah, they really would look for the spookiest friends they could find.
Well, I assume that this whole thing's like a prequel, It's like at every turn, it's like... there's always the seeds of the darkness that's to come,
Oh, it just gets worse, man.
Yeah.
It just gets worse. Francis Allen was a fan of Eliza Poe. She really liked her acting and stuff. She'd seen her multiple times, so that's why she really wanted to take Edgar, and they had no children, even though John Allen had a couple of illegitimate children.
Waka waka.
Yeah, and which wasn't weird for the time, you know what I mean? It was accepted. Not that wives enjoyed it, but men could do literally whatever the fuck they wanted back then with their families. So that was a reality.
You could just leave.
Yeah.
Adultery was like American Express. Nobody likes it, but it's accepted everywhere.
Pretty much. Now, John Allen was a self-made tobacco merchant in Richmond, Virginia. And he actually never let Edgar forget that he wasn't his real son. The family actually never formally adopted him, but that's where the name Allen, Edgar Allan Poe, comes from.
Oh, it's his middle name.
Yeah, it's sort of a middle name, but it's their last name.
I just figured he used his whole name because he was a failed serial killer.
Yeah, everyone needs 3 names to be a serial killer.
Yeah, you gotta have 3 names to be a serial killer.
Yeah. And John Allen, honestly, he would provide, good schooling for the boy and raise him in pretty much the best possible way a parent could for the time, although he was emotionally and physically distant for a lot of the time. And he berated Edgar while also sort of spoiling him monetarily wise. You know what I mean?
So he wasn't verbally distant by the sound of things.
No. He wasn't abusive, but at the same time, abuse in those days meant nearly beating a child to death. So what he, his form of punishment would probably be considered abuse today. You know what I mean?
He gave him a taste of his belt from time to time.
Every picture of him looks like he just got smacked across the head.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And then they're like, smile. I guess he's thinking
he's like, no.
At first, people are like, oh, he flinches when you walk by him because he has an older brother. And then they're like, oh, no, he doesn't have any older brother. And then they just all look at the parents.
Yep.
Well, the surrogate parents.
Yeah. Foster parents.
Yeah.
But yeah, he would buy Edgar pretty much whatever he needed and then turn around and, like, be super shitty to him. But Francis Allen, on the other hand, loved Edgar quite a bit and encouraged him in art and poetry to, like, read poetry and create art, be creative and stuff. But John Allen would berate him for pursuing art and writing and reading poetry and stuff like that. He would, call him names for doing that. Now...
What kind of names, Jerry?
It
clearly made you uncomfortable to bring up the fact that he called them names, so I know that they're probably not appropriate.
I think they're way of the time. They're like, you, son, are wayward.
You're a wayward layabout dandy.
I think that's what it was.
Yeah. You act like a man from Charleston.
Yeah.
I don't even know what that means.
Yeah,
I'm thinking
got your britches up too high, boy. Something, I don't know. Whatever old-timey fucking insults there are.
And I bet you for the time it was like very damaging and you just cry and cry.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and I imagine Edgar being a dour boy like that.
Right into his mince tart.
Yeah. Another surrogate mother for Edgar was his friend's mom, Jane Stannard. And whenever his dad would, like, be super shitty to him, he'd, like, run over to his buddy's house. And Jane would be super nice to him, and again encouraged him to read and write and paint and draw and all that stuff, while his father, of course, discouraged him from doing all that stuff. So a lot of people consider Jane to be, like, almost like his first love in a lot of ways. He saw her as a mother, but he loved her quite a bit. Jane, however, died tragically from either a mental disorder or like a brain tumor. It's sort of unknown, but it has something to do with the brain. And she died when he was 15.
I'm going with syphilis.
He didn't take it very well. He would go to the cemetery and cry at her tombstone. He wrote a lot of poems about her. There's an early Poe poem called To Helen that a lot of people think is about Jane Stannard.
Can we just call them poems?
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. I mean, some people make the thing. Anyway, yeah. Edgar, by everyone's standard, was a bright boy, and he got along really well with his peers. He was actually pretty athletic, which not a lot of people would expect.
Athleticism is not spooky at all.
Yeah, no. He was actually pretty athletic. He was even known in Richmond for his swimming abilities.
Oh, I'm picturing him in like a Letterman jacket.
Swimming can be pretty spooky if you're doing it in a bog.
Ooh, bogs are spooky.
Bogs are really spooky at nighttime.
How do you swim in a bog?
I don't know.
You get deep enough sometimes.
You get deep.
Yeah, but it's like covered with grass and dirt and shit.
You get your car stuck in it, and then when you're getting your car out, you're technically swimming in it.
Yeah.
No, he like swam in the river and shit.
Yeah. Sometimes the river kind of becomes a little boggy.
Yeah, it gets a little boggy. Gotta watch out for water moccasins. They'll bite you once and you're dead.
Yeah.
Is that true? That's not true.
It's absolutely true.
Is that
or the
true?
dreaded Tandiru.
Oh yeah, the dreaded Candiru. This naughty fish has a penchant for swimming up a man's urethra.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. In 1815, the Allen family moved to Scotland, where John Allen was born.
Cool.
To be with his family. Then they moved down to London. Edgar was sent to a boarding school, an English boarding school.
But they paddled him there.
Oh yeah, he got a paddle.
That's
I bet you he was eating mince pies almost every day.
You got a big dumb head. That's paddling.
Crying into a mince pie. That's
I almost
definitely.
spat out my There's
nothing he can do about it. They're like, you come in with a big dumb head again. That's a paddle.
God damn it!
What am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
He wears a big suit like fucking David
Byrne.
Yeah. Trying to make his head look smaller. It worked for a time.
He's like the bad guy from Blood Dolls.
Until we figured out the deception.
You're like, wait a minute. That's a big suit.
That's just a big suit. You got a big head.
I thought you had a regular sized head for a while.
But in 1820, the family moved back to the States. John Allan, probably because John Allan, inherited a substantial amount of money from his uncle. He got like $17 million in 1820 money.
Jesus.
Like, he became rich overnight. He like built his own house. He became super rich overnight.
The thing that sucks about being really rich back then is there's not as much stuff you can buy. Like, once you build your house...
You could buy people back then.
Well...
And John Allan did.
That's officially not a good thing.
I mean, he was a tobacco merchant.
Oh, no.
He owned people, my friend.
Once you get your servants in your house, then what? You travel? Buy steamer? And leave the house you just built? Come on.
Yeah. No, you don't travel back then.
Yeah.
No thanks. There's
You go to Cancun.
traveling is dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing in Cancun at that point. There's no resorts.
Yeah.
Can't go to Sandals if there's no sandals.
Yeah, that's a good point.
During this time, Poe actually served in the Youth Honor Guard in 1824.
You know they gave him a gun.
I think they gave him like a wooden gun. You know what I mean?
Like in Other Guys.
Yeah.
It's like they put a nice lacquer on that. You want to send him a thank you letter.
It's for show. But 1824 is when the Marquis de Lafayette made his big comeback tour and in the United States, and he toured everywhere, right?
Sang all the hits.
Yeah, he went to all the hits, and he visited. Edgar served in the like little honor guard that like did the flag thing and everything, and for the Marquis, and Lafayette remembered his grandfather. Mm-hmm. He met Edgar Allan Poe.
That's crazy.
Which is super nuts. Mm-hmm. Like Edgar was he like walked up to Edgar and he's like, you know, your grandpa was a good man, you know, and like he went and visited Edgar Allan Poe's grandfather's grave while he was on tour. Super interesting. Weird fucking small world, man. You know?
There was just less people back then. It was easier.
There literally was.
Yeah, I mean, like, it was easier to be of import because you're like one of the 5 people who knows how to read.
Yeah. Life moved pretty fast for Edgar after his father got rich and his foster mother came down with tuberculosis.
Again?
The consumption.
It was pretty rampant during this time.
Anytime we do anything before the 20th century, there's a chance that at least one person in the story is going to die of the consumption.
Oh, yeah.
Arthur got it.
Yep.
Spoiler to that game. Came out like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about the Tick's roommate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The bunny guy? The moth guy? Whatever?
He got the consumption.
Yeah, the moth.
He died of TB.
It's the last episode of that show, and it ends on a real downer note.
The last episode of the Amazon show is him dying slowly of tuberculosis.
Yeah, he's like,
Tick, you gotta help me.
You gotta move on. You gotta find a new sidekick.
Yeah.
And he's like, I will one day, and it's very sad.
Yeah, he's like, sad. I feel like a young Edgar Allan Poe experiencing a loved one, a mother figure dying for the second time of tuberculosis.
Well, for the third time.
Oh yeah, right? That's true.
For the third time.
Wait, so you're saying the Tick thought of Arthur as a mother figure?
Yes.
Yeah. He's a very nurturing little man.
He's a very nurturing man.
John Allan, because his wife was sick with tuberculosis, flagrantly carried on extramarital affairs in their own home. Again, while not a lot of people liked it, it was something that men could do, and he did, and he didn't give a fuck. Edgar didn't like that. He thought of women in a different way, because throughout his whole life, and you'll see, women were the only people that were ever nice to him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, men were the ones that he saw as sort of an enemy.
Yeah.
They were the ones that kind of, like, fucked with him, right?
I mean, have you met men?
Yeah. Yeah.
We're kind of
you
the
know
worst.
what they've been up to?
Yeah. Bunch of shitty things. World War... You learned about it on this podcast.
Yeah.
Fucking
Some bad
genocide,
happened.
baby.
Yeah. But yeah, he sired even more illegitimate children, and it really drove a wedge between John and Edgar even further. So Edgar enrolled at the University of Virginia, which was founded by Thomas Jefferson.
Yes. Thomas Jefferson.
Yep.
Got it.
And Thomas Jefferson had this whole idea with the University of Virginia that, like, it would be self-policing and had all these strict rules against horses, tobacco, booze, gambling, and guns. That's right. Thomas Jefferson, a founding father, banned guns at his own school.
So wait. So I thought what you were getting around to was that all of those things, they'd be self-policed to do those things. Gamble and
Right.
shoot guns and ride horses like
Right.
badasses.
When everybody's looking, no one's looking.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the rules were ignored, but it was supposed to be, this... I think some schools actually have a pretty strict self-policing policy today, but it wasn't really working back then. And you know what I mean?
Worst case scenario, Thomas Jefferson shows up all like, aghast. You just give him Minecraft.
Yeah.
And
give him a toaster, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
And watch him marvel at that. or a microwave, and watch him marvel at that.
I still don't understand how microwaves work.
I don't either. I'm not a scientist.
it hits
Like
him
an oven, I get it. It gets hot.
It gets
but,
hot. Microwaves.
Cooks your food from the inside out with radiation.
I don't get it. Yeah.
Not really
It's
from
scary.
the
It's
inside
too
out.
scary for me to ponder too long.
Don't
Don't
put
make
your
it-
hand in there when it's on.
That's impossible.
It'll cook it.
Yeah. Before he left, he was actually tenuously engaged with a girl named Sarah Elmira Royster. Is that funny to you?
She's like, boy, I gotta get married to this guy and change my name to something less stupid.
Make fun of white people's names too.
Yeah.
My Tyler's name is Armantrout.
I know.
It's not as bad as Royster.
No.
Royster damn near
Royster.
killed her.
Sounds like an oyster plus a rooster.
A rooster and oyster.
It's half rooster, half oyster.
I'd eat it.
Yeah, I was
Well, but
gonna
it's
say.
delicious.
I was gonna say it probably tastes pretty good.
Especially
I'm not
smoked.
an oyster man, but ooh,
But can you eat it raw?
smoke damn near anything.
Yeah.
You can't eat it raw. It's part chicken.
It's part of chicken.
No.
Certainly not.
You gotta smoke it.
In a doobie. No.
Yeah. You gotta spark a J
Yeah.
with that royster.
If it ain't toke, don't fix it, daddy-o.
Yeah. Elmira's father didn't like the idea of her marrying an orphan,
Ugh.
so he
Ugh.
discouraged her from doing so.
Disgusting.
Yeah, but they were still engaged when he
If he's
went
a
off
real
to-
man, why are his parents dead?
Yeah, right.
I say the same
fuck is the
thing about
logic
Harry
there?
Potter all the time.
Well, maybe
Yeah.
he wouldn't get some sort of inheritance. I don't know.
Birdman and Spider-Man and Superman.
Luke Skywalker,
Yeah.
Bilbo Baggins, or no, Frodo Baggins.
Frodo Baggins. Are his parents dead?
I assume so. Either that or they discarded him
close.
because he was embarrassing.
He's close with his uncle.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
little too close, if you ask me. Bit of a Batman and Robin situation going on there. Confirmed bachelors, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
His roommate Gandalf.
Oh my god.
But I saw him sleep in the same bed.
Weird.
Oh.
Gandalf and Bilbo were sleeping in the same bed.
But they were still sort of engaged when he went off to University of Virginia. But the thing was about John Allan is he only gave Edgar enough money to get there, and that's it. He didn't give him.
That's a message.
Yeah, he didn't give him enough money for clothes, for food, for books, for classes. Nothing.
Certainly not enough money to get back.
No, it was a ticket, and that's it.
He'd be
You know?
gone.
Yeah, you be gone now. And he was a rich man, super rich man.
A tight ass.
Yeah, he's not a good dude, honestly.
Poe's turning on his
That's
pockets.
so rare among rich men.
Yeah, right. Regardless, though, all of his classmates at UV really liked him, and they actually wondered if he would become a great artist or a great poet, because he was really good at drawing, he was really good at painting. He actually drew all these murals on his walls and ceiling of his room. Another rule that he broke.
Yeah.
Again, no one gave a shit.
They were all gambling about whether he'd be a poet or an artist.
Yeah. Right.
And Thomas Jefferson was getting mad that everyone's gambling.
Yeah.
Firing guns in the air.
Yeah. I think he was dead by this point.
No,
Just
ghost.
He wasn't cold yet, but he was dead.
It's a hot corpse.
Yeah.
Hot corpse coming through, folks.
It was exploded.
I want to say he could. I don't fucking know.
There's cooked bits in here.
I'm just imagining Thomas Jefferson dying from exploding.
It smells delicious. Now I gotta go confront some things about myself. Where I draw the line.
He got a letter from John Adams, and he just.
He got a package from Ted Kaczynski.
Yeah.
I just like the idea of him getting a letter from John Adams, and it's like, "Dear Mr. Jefferson, kaboom! Your friend John Adams, kaboom!
Kaboom!
Here's tick tick tick.
Yeah.
This timepiece is simply explosive." Anyway,
It's inside of me.
Yeah.
He starts like.
You see, in the night, John Adams says people saw a bomb into him.
We're way off topic here. John Adams.
It's history related.
So to make ends meet, Edgar, he tried his hand at gambling to make money, but he lost. He lost hardcore. At
Big
gambling.
time. The house always wins, Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah. He actually ended up $2,000 in debt of the time money, which is a shit ton of money back.
You bet against the Harlem Globetrotters.
Again and again and again.
You should have seen the odds. If I did win.
Yeah. I would have made like $1 million.
Sunk cost fallacy to the extreme.
And so he wrote John Allen all these letters. And if you do read Edgar Allan Poe's letters to anybody, he is a very melodramatic person. All of his correspondence is just big, and if you don't do it, I'm afraid I will perish. You know, like that kind of a thing.
Played by John Hurt.
Played by John Hurt, yeah. Only with the southern accent.
Yeah. John Hurt could have pulled that off.
Actually, in high school, that made me think, there was this guy in drama who memorized The Raven, and he recited it for all of us.
That's cool.
He was to like try out for next year. He did it in like a full suit with like tails, like white gloves, and an English accent, and confused everybody.
Probably thought it was going to be fancier if he did that.
Yeah, I think that's exactly why he did it.
What's fancier than an English accent?
Yeah.
You tell me.
He's like, it sounds creepier.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know.
I think a certain southern drawl can sound pretty creepy.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it sure can.
I mean, there's Southern Gothic.
Yeah, come on now.
There's a whole name for it.
Yeah.
It's a genre.
Edgar Allan Poe helped create.
Yeah,
you know. So he wrote all these letters, like, asking him to help pay for these debts. And John Allen refused. Surprise, surprise.
Regular, like typical Allen behavior.
Yeah,
like
so...
Paul Allen, you know?
Yeah, so...
Tim Allen.
So they had all these letters back and forth, and Poe would, write one where he's like, God damn it, he's like, fuck you, God damn, fuck you, you're not gonna help me pay all my debts. Yeah, fuck you. And then he'd be like, I am sick. I will never get out of my bed. There's no way I can ever move from my bed. Please, send me money. Forget what I said. Please. Otherwise, I don't even know what I'm writing. I may perish.
He bought way tee many pillows, and there's no way he's gonna sell them all.
Yeah. Yeah.
What We Do in the Shadows, gang.
Yeah.
Watch it, it's a great show.
So good. He was destitute. He didn't have any money. And he, had to break the furniture in his room to burn.
Oh, I thought you were going to say he ate his furniture.
Oh.
He got drunk and just trashed his IKEA table.
Yep.
Been there, brother.
Yeah.
I don't know why any reasonable person would break a table, then go buy another table, then break that table. With their bare hands.
So this is hand-carved mahogany. I have to go over to the IKEA, get that table, break that table, burn that for fuel. So he dropped out of University of Virginia. John Allan did agree to pay the debt as long as he would come over and work for him.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was like an accounting position or something. He's like, you gotta work for me now, boy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And he's like, oh, fuck.
You gotta fix my taxes.
Yeah.
Really make it, stretch it.
Yeah.
You gotta work for me now, boy. And then Poe just starts pulling down his pants, and Alan's like, what are you doing? He's like, I thought there was a sexual connotation. He's like, no, I'm your foster dad, you gross little piece of shit. Put your pants back on. I mean, be an accountant, man. It's like, okay, sorry. That's I was adjusting my pants.
I was tucking my shirt in.
Yeah.
The Giuliani one.
Yeah, the Giuliani. I don't even know you people. But when he got back to Richmond, he found that Sarah Elmira Royster was now engaged to a different man.
Mm.
He just generally found himself unwelcome there. And he left. And he bopped around. He went to a lot of different places. He went to New York and did some odd jobs under an assumed name.
Why?
I don't know. I think he was trying to leave himself behind a little bit.
He's trying to reinvent himself.
Yeah.
He was going by Chris Gaines.
Yeah.
Living in New York.
He had a soul patch.
Yeah. He did go to New York. But
while he was there, did he eat some really, really shitty Baconti sauce?
Probably, maybe.
What?
You know, in the one stuff in the old commercials, they'd say this other stuff's made in New York
Paste
City.
Paste Baconti
Baconti. Yeah, that's the one.
Oh, yeah.
Salsa.
Back when
That
there
was
was
a reach, dude.
back when there was
quite
one
the reach.
There was one brand. There was like two brands.
This is the
of
salsa that's made in New York City.
Yeah. You're eating that City Slicker salsa.
New York City.
New York City.
And then Sam Elliott tells you what a great salsa it is.
Yeah.
Every time he would do something like this, it would just drive him further away from his foster father. Not surprisingly. It was sort of a two-way street, right? Some of it was Poe's fault. And a lot of it was John.
But he
Allan's
didn't
fault.
get the ball rolling.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So he probably could with that fucking head.
He's like, all this abandoning me financially while I was in college, then forcing me to work from you while you cheated on my foster mom with several women right in front of me is really driving a wedge between us, man.
Yeah, well, she's dying of TB.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fucked up. So, being a little aimless during this time, in 1827, he was 18 years old, but he lied about his age. He said he was 22.
So he could fight the Nazis.
And he joined the military.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what you do.
That's what you do.
My grandpa lied about his age to get into World War II.
He's a regular Lawrence Fishburne.
Yeah. Lying about his age to be on Apocalypse Now.
Yeah. Lying about his age to play a soldier in a war movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
It was under another assumed name as well. Edgar A. Perry is what his name was while he was in the military.
Just trying to reinvent himself.
Yeah, and, he was a pretty good soldier. He liked the structure the military had, and he thrived.
It'd be pretty good easy to get a headshot off on him, though.
Jeez.
I mean, does it even count as a headshot if it's like 75% of his entire body?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Now I'm just,
Big head ass
I just
motherfucker.
picture a giant head rolling around with a flappy body, like flapping as the head rolls. That's
Sometimes
it.
I try to, anticipate the jokes that are gonna come, and I almost never see them coming. the giant head one, I did not see coming.
We live we're agents of chaos. We're unpredictable.
He was recognized pretty immediately in the military for being, really smart.
Well, his head's huge!
Yeah. So he actually moved up in the ranks fairly quickly, and he became the highest rank he could be as a non-commissioned officer. As a non-commissioned officer.
What rank is that?
Sergeant Major, something like that. I believe. I didn't write it down, but yeah, I think it was Sergeant Major at that time in the artillery division. And he was inspecting shells and stuff and making sure they
That's
would
a damn
fire.
fine shell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
damn fine.
He stamps it.
Sometimes when I get
stamps his damn fine.
I get the Kraft Deluxe macaroni and cheese. Well, shells and cheese, and then I inspect those shells, and they're delicious.
I really like the
Convenient
Trader Joe's white cheddar in shells.
Oh yeah.
Make 2 boxes once, put a whole stick of butter in there, put your own cheese in there.
Yeah.
I like to crack a little bit of black pepper on mine, kind of heat it up a little.
Oh, you get some hot
Formaggio.
sauce on your... put some hot sauce on that mac and cheese.
If you really want to get nuts, you can throw in a can of chili, make a chili mac, or throw in
chili
a couple of hot dogs, or you know.
We're getting into October season, so chili mac is chili mac season.
I've been making soup in my Dutch oven.
Ooh,
I'm actually making soup tomorrow, so welcome to the Soupcast.
Yeah.
Around this time, Poe actually published his first book of poetry called Tamerlane and Other Poems.
Okay.
To virtually no response. He had a limited.
He released it
run.
as a zine.
Yeah, pretty much. It was a limited run. It was only 40 pages, and no one noticed it.
Yeah.
It was totally unnoticed.
He just photocopied them at the school library.
At the FedEx Kinko's. There were so few of them made, and because of his fame later on,
Imagine they're quite valuable.
they're incredibly valuable. Like, one of the last surviving original prints sold for an incredible amount of money. I don't have the number
It's like
in
a
front of me.
Spider-Man issue 1.
Incredible amount of money. Yeah, it's pretty incredible. Anyway,
It's funny because one of the poems in there was called Amazing
Amazing Tales.
Amazing Tales Journey into the Mystery. It's Marvel Comics.
Stan Lee.
and it's about Man Spider. No, which I honestly wouldn't put past Poe. But they're all minor works. Tamerlane is sort of a minor work. Al-Araf was also in there. He claims that he wrote that poem when he was a kid too.
Liar.
But those two, Al-Araf and Tamerlane, he never really got over. Like, I don't know if it was the themes in it or something, but like he always felt like it needed more appreciation.
Mm-hmm.
And he really liked it, but it doesn't seem like anyone else really liked those two.
You're like, we don't get it, dude.
Yeah, and I think a lot of creative types have that one thing.
Yeah.
Where, like, they made this thing and they're like, I don't think anyone really gets this, and maybe at a certain time somebody else will get this.
It's like my novel.
But nobody really likes it or understands it.
Sometimes you make things that, you know, you and your friends work really hard on, you think it's really funny, and it never really finds an audience, and
you move on to other things.
You move on to other things, man.
You become a podcaster.
Yeah.
Everyone has that one thing that they're like, I just don't think anybody got that. But anyway.
Some people make nothing.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Fuck them. Fuck those
I'm saying if you are a creative person, you're listening to this right now, know that you're not alone. It happens to everybody. You know, just keep going. Keep on keeping on. Keep going.
Absolutely.
Just gotta make another thing, and make another thing,
Just
and make
keep
another
going.
thing.
And I promise you, it'll all get better.
Never listen to people tell you to quit.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
Edgar Allan Poe didn't quit.
He didn't.
He was too legit.
It's too legit to quit.
Legit to quit.
Also, huge MC Hammer fan.
Yes.
Posthumous.
Yeah. Post.
He was posthumously a fan.
Yeah.
Because he was dead when MC Hammer came out, Jerry. Jesus.
So we can only assume based off of his writings, the music he would like in the early 90s, and
up until
we
today.
have an algorithm that lines it up, and MC Hammer would be one of his favorite artists.
There's a poster of MC Hammer on his wall. He's like, this is the kind of thing I like.
Which is funny because Hammer has a poster of Edgar Allan Poe on his wall.
Which is somehow even more absurd.
It's because he literally could have.
And the picture of Edgar Allan Poe on the poster on MC Hammer's wall is wearing an MC Hammer shirt.
It gets very meta very fast. You know. Now I want you guys to understand a couple of things. Now I went through a few sources for this episode, and Poe's life is presented in a lot of different ways, and it's almost always told in a different order. Like, things are just in a different order. So I couldn't really figure out exactly when things happened because Poe himself was unreliable.
It's a fucking liar.
He was unreliable.
He didn't even know
that
when
one
things
poem
happened.
when he was a kid.
Yeah,
I don't buy it.
I don't think so. Kid meaning 18, I buy. Anyway, so I want you to know that going forward, you may have heard this in a different way, and that's okay, because I did too. I'm telling it this way because...
Fuck it.
I have to tell it to you some way, right?
You gotta pick one.
Yes, so...
Just tell it to us this way, and then do it a different way again after.
Well,
do it each way.
Yeah.
It's all the same stuff, but you just do it in a different order.
Or we just keep in mind that all these events happened, but maybe not in the order that they're being told.
Yes.
Yes.
It's like a Tarantino movie.
Or it's like a different ending each time, like Run, Lola, Run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. I'm not a big fan. I'm sorry if you're a fan of that movie. I'm not a big fan of that movie.
I like that movie a lot, but I'm not a fan of people who are fans of it, if that makes any sense.
It does make sense.
So, like, every manager of a Blockbuster video in, like, 1998?
I mean, if you like that movie, stop listening to this podcast, because I do not care for it.
That's not true.
I don't listen to this podcast.
Hey, Run Lola Run's a classic that people talk about and watch all the time. Sorry for almost making...
I mean, I saw it in school, so I mean, there's something to be said
spit
about
on my beer, I thought that was... that really, stood the test of time.
Yeah. The problem was, and you'll see why it's a problem, is that Poe was being recommended to go to West Point, the military academy.
The spookiest military academy.
And if he actually did do that, he would have to divulge who he was. And so he went to his commanding officer, and he told him, he said, listen, my real name is Edgar Allan Poe. I'm not Edgar A. Perry. The thing is me and my dad had a big fight, and I ran away to the military, and this is the deal. And he goes, okay, well, we will give you your discharge to go to West Point if you make amends with your foster father.
Why do they care?
That was his CO's demand. And so Edgar wrote John Allen all these letters, pleading to be like, hey, can you support the idea of this discharge? And
he's like, I know that you're a big fan of Discharge because of all the strumpets.
You support the idea of this discharge?
I'm sorry.
You installed a revolving door next to your bedroom for the constant cavalcade of whores coming and going. So, you clearly love Discharge. Both male and feminine.
But Allen ignored Edgar's letters. He was just like, no, yeah, you don't want anything to do with me. Oh, all of a sudden you need me, huh?
Ugh.
Yeah, exactly.
Sounds like a fucking child.
Yeah, that's childish behavior, absolutely.
Such a child, he probably could have wrote some pretty good poetry.
Well, John Allen.
I know.
So much so that John Allen didn't tell Edgar that Francis Allen was dying.
TB?
And dying of TB. He let him know way too late. So when Edgar rushed back to Virginia, he was a day late for the funeral.
And
he missed her funeral. And perhaps because John Allen probably felt bad about that one, where he's like, "What the fuck? I missed her funeral." And like,
possibly I went too far.
Yeah. He decided to support Edgar's discharge from the military.
I like how you were like, they're gonna laugh again when I say discharge, because these are children.
Yeah.
And you're right, it's a funny word.
Yeah.
Discharge is an objectively funny word. What are you gonna do?
Yeah. Don't throw away that mayonnaise jar. That's my discharge from the military.
That's so absurd.
Saving a jar.
No, I get it.
It's
my discharge.
It's a semen
from
joke.
when I was in the military.
Because we're adults. He has it in I'm going to scrapbook it when it dries out.
He jerked off to it. He jerked off to a mayonnaise jar all through his tours.
Yeah.
Through Afghanistan, Iraq,
Saigon,
Haiti. I don't know.
The rest.
The other places. Grenada. He did get the discharge from the military, and he did go to West Point. In the meantime, Edgar needed a place to stay, and he certainly wasn't going to stay with John Allen. So he went to Baltimore to stay with his aunt, who was sort of a maternal figure to him, and it was his aunt on his father's side. Right? So, like, his father's sister. And he moved in with her. Her name was Maria Clem. And,
Clem Fandango.
And Edgar referred to her lovingly as Muddy.
Muddy.
Yeah. Maria Clem was Muddy. Yeah.
Your drawers, you're muddy.
I think it might be like
She pooped her pants, is what I'm saying.
You're not my mother, you're my muddy.
Yeah.
Muddish.
And he did call her mother, too, later on.
Yeah, regular Mike Pence.
He called all women mother.
Yeah.
And refused to eat dinner with any of them or whatever.
Yeah. She had an 8-year-old daughter. She was widowed. She had an 8-year-old daughter named Virginia Eliza Clem.
Mm.
At this time, his older brother Henry was staying with them, and he got to know his older brother a little bit better. Because he did kind of stay in contact with his other siblings. And his older brother he looked up to, because he was a writer, and he was a poet, and he was a sailor.
Henry was?
Yeah.
And he rode a motorcycle.
I mean, this is the time of the Essex. Like, being a sailor was like being a fucking rock star. You know what I mean? Like,
it's like, you fucking actor, I piss in your face. Yeah. But this sailor, though,
he's going out on all these adventures. He's
times
telling
have really
him,
changed.
Yeah, he's telling him about all these adventures on the high seas and shit. You know, hunting whales and all sorts of stuff. So he got an interest in that. And he really looked up to his brother.
He's like, tell me that story again about that white whale. I wish to write a book. And his brother was like, go fuck yourself. Yeah. He's like, all right, I guess I won't write a book about that.
I'll write a poem about a bird or something.
Yeah.
Whatever. Fuck you.
He's like, Aunt Muddy and my cousin Sloppy, they're going to tell me about birds.
Jesus. Edgar went to West Point with, again, no financial support from his foster father. Again, he would write his foster father and be like, I need money. And he would always be like, no.
Go fuck yourself.
Yeah. And John Allan remarried pretty quickly after Francis died.
He had money. I don't imagine it was that difficult.
Yeah.
It's an open marriage.
Well, he became close with his illegitimate children. Closer than he would ever be with Edgar. He pretty much disowned Edgar in a lot of ways. Later in life, I'll just bring it up here, but later in life, people were telling Edgar, hey man, John Allan is dying. And he went to see him, because I guess that's what you do. And when he got to John Allan's deathbed, one of his last acts of being alive was to straight up take a cane and wave it at him from his deathbed and call him like an ungrateful, horrid little child, and like, I'm sorry I ever had anything to do with you, and
it's like
yelled
Amazing
him
Spider-Man
out of
2
room.
when Chris Cooper yells at Dane DeHaan.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That movie was terrible.
It was the
I thought you were
last
going
time
to
they
say...
ever spoke, and it was horrific.
Dane DeHaan is a big fucking head like Poe.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you were going to say that Alan waved the cane at Poe and told him that he wanted cash money for pictures of Spider-Man. And I thought that's where Chris was going with it. He's like, yeah, just like J. Jonah Jameson.
But like, give me
a paternal figure to Peter Parker.
Yeah, in many ways.
Yeah.
Not in a positive way, but
yeah.
But yeah, he would write him letters being like, hey, I need money, I'm barely surviving here. And no avail.
I'm dying,
he got
man.
nowhere. So he deliberately court-martialed from West Point. He refused to show up for church.
Pass.
He refused to show up for, when they get all in the line and stuff in the morning. Yeah, he passed on a couple of those. He flouted the rules. He had a bunch of write-ups and stuff like that.
Punk rock as fuck during this period of time.
Yeah. He actually wrote funny poems about his, commanding officer.
It was badass.
That all the other cadets really liked. That they're like, it's pretty fun. And, you go back and read it, and it's like the guy's name was, Locke, John Locke or something like that.
John Locke.
And he's like, John Locke's a great name, but this John Locke,
doesn't have
he writes people up, is what he does. And they're all like,
John Locke is a good name.
John Locke. More like Lockjaw, because of the amount of tetanus he suffered in his life.
Yeah.
Right, boys?
Yeah.
Well, he did step on that nail as a kid. It was rusty.
But yeah, he was court-martialed for dereliction of duty. And
he was like, you guys can derelict my balls, because I don't give a damn.
Yeah. But all the other cadets, again, like, really liked him. All actually pitched in to get Poe to publish another work of poetry. Mm-hmm. So he finally did, and his second book of poetry was simply called Poems.
Poems.
And everyone at West Point was like, all right, we're going to get some funny shit. Instead, they got like a book, or a bunch of bizarre stories about like a dead woman and like some doomed city and shit. And they were like there were head scratchers, and they were like, well, that's not what we were expecting. And he just kind of moved on. He's like, sorry, that's what I wanted, right?
Brother.
They're like, we bought this book. It's called Poe-M's. And we get the play on words. Your arms are crossed and you're leaning on the word poems. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you're like, it's just what I do. You know, you have that matter-of-fact nature. So we thought it was going to be some pretty funny stuff. But instead, it spooked me, spooked the boy.
Spooked the shit out of me, you guys.
I'm still waking up drenched in sweat halfway through the night.
Oh, yeah. And I have a fan of myself, so it's definitely not the heat.
Yeah.
It's the fright. He actually included Tamerlane and Alaroth.
He likes those
in
ones.
Poems. Yeah, he did. No one else did, but he did. And he found out around this time that his older brother, who was an alcoholic, that he passed away also from tuberculosis.
Mm. I mean, this is the 1800s, 19th century.
Early 1800s, yeah.
Everyone dies of tuberculosis. There was not a single death in 100 years that was not TB.
Yeah, pretty damn true, honestly.
Even during the Civil War, like, they shot tuberculosis bullets at each other.
Right. Oh, I got the consumption.
And once you get hit with the tuberculosis bullet, you're just hoping to get hit with a regular bullet, finish the job, make quick work of you.
Well, and you hope you get hit in the heart or something, because you get hit in the hand or something, they're like, you gotta take the arm.
Yeah.
That's my arm now. Doc.
You're like, that's the arm I hold the hanky and cough into with my tuberculosis. No more, it ain't.
Yeah. We are Civil War doctors. We cut everything off.
I'm surprised John Allen wasn't a Civil War doctor the way he cut off Poe all those times.
Well, that's a great segue, honestly.
Thanks, Tyler.
Because at this point, Edgar Allan Poe was completely cut off from John Allen.
Thank you, folks.
That's right out of my
all week.
It's right out of my outline. It's really serendipitous that showed up. He was completely on his own, and he decided he was going to try to make it as a writer. Now,
you're gonna make it on your own.
I thought he was going to say make it as a rock star.
No?
I mean, he's Mary Tyler Moore.
Yeah.
No, that was Mary Tyler Moore.
Yeah.
What I just said.
Yes. Yeah.
He's Mary Tyler Moore.
He's Mary Tyler Moore. Yeah.
He's trying to make it and have it all in the city.
His boss was Ed Asner. May he rest in peace.
Yes, indeed. So we moved to Philadelphia.
Born and raised. In the school ground. I'm just doing theme songs.
I know you are. When is the what is it, Great American Hero?
Believe it or not, George isn't it home. Yeah.
Trying to make it as a writer in nearly any time is an uphill battle. You know what I mean? And the writers out there will absolutely know this. Mm-hmm. But in this time especially, it was really, really difficult to get a living off of the written word. Mm-hmm. The copyright laws back then were non-existent. So your work was easily stolen, sold, and reprinted elsewhere without your knowledge. Publishers would straight up gauge how hungry you were and be like, well, I can only pay you so much. Mm-hmm. For what you have, and you had to take it, right? Or not pay them at all,
Jeez.
They'd do that, and they would run contests, Mm-hmm. And Poe would throughout his life write stories and submit them to contests where he would frequently get the first prize. Mm-hmm. Like, he would always get the first prize, but it was like he made $50.
Yeah, blue ribbons don't put food on the table.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He's talking PBR, brother.
Hey,
There's calories in it. You can live off for a while.
I was gonna say, unless that blue ribbon is for a hog, for a 4-H hog at the county fair, you could live off.
can't eat that.
You just have to slit its throat and watch its blood slowly drain away. Probably collect it.
Chop into pieces.
You can make sausage.
Yeah. Use
That
every
sounds
piece of
delicious,
it.
I'm gonna be honest with you.
He did some menial work for newspapers and magazines.
Taking pictures of Spider-Man and whatnot.
Doing columns and writing short stories, which he helped actually pioneer the art of the short story. All authors afterwards have cited Edgar Allan Poe, anyone that writes short stories, as the man who mastered the short story. As an influence.
They had short stories before that, but they sucked.
Was he criticized at the time? Were they like, your stories are too short. It's disrespectful to our attention span. It's gonna ruin the youthful
needs
mind.
to be so.
Well, actually, Edgar Allan Poe did say about the short story. He said short stories are actually much better because it has your full attention the entire time, and that's why they're good. But he had a couple of editors that didn't like a few of his short stories. Berenice was one that he published and everyone loved, and actually increased their subscription base, because that's how they measured success back in the day, was subscription. Not like followers today, but it was like subscriptions, right? And he was like, the way you get subscriptions is you gotta write these crazy stories. I don't know if you've ever read Berenice. It's about a guy whose wife is dying, and when she dies, he becomes like infatuated with her teeth and pulls them all out, and then she wakes up and she's still alive. It's fucking gnarly.
Oh, my teeth!
Man,
Yeah.
He overreacted. She fell asleep early one night.
Yeah.
Maybe had a little bit too much of the brandy.
yeah.
A little too much Chardonnay, you
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
He's like, let's take the end of Romeo and Juliet and then take it way further and weirder.
It's like,
Yeah.
remember in the end of Romeo and Juliet when he pulled all her teeth out?
And then she woke up, and then he died, and then then she died. I don't know. I don't remember it.
I don't remember which one was...
They all die.
Well, they both died. One is like taking a fake potion, and then... she takes a fake potion.
It's a potion that makes her look dead.
That's what I mean.
And then she's gonna wake up, and he doesn't know.
So he goes in there, he pulls
takes a
her
real-
teeth out,
Yeah. To make a necklace as a keepsake.
and then, I don't know, fucking shoots himself? I don't fucking know.
Well, like, in Berenice, it's a great story, but, like, he for some reason, is really infatuated with her teeth. He pulls them all out, and he doesn't really, like, remember doing it. He's in, like, a fugue state, and, like, he, like, sort of comes... This is, like, a running theme in Poe's work, that, like, he doesn't remember doing the crazy act, and then you wake up covered in blood, and there's a guy going, like, dude, what the fuck? And then, like, you hear a scream, and he's covered in blood, and you pull out all the teeth, you know, and it's...
Yeah, I mean, my wife...
There's a reckoning.
My wife's pissed when I fucking pulled out all her teeth when I was blackout drunk. You know, I don't blame her. You know, it was a faux pas on my part.
Yeah, a bit of a social...
At least she only pulled out her teeth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Could have done
Could
worse.
have pulled out her bones.
But yeah, Edgar was able to publish some short stories here and there. They were always received fairly well. People liked them. The thing is he would move around from job to job, quitting, being fired. He was fired a lot for being drunk on the job.
Nice. Been there.
He did get a job, though, as an assistant editor in Richmond, because he had a connection there in Richmond. But he was fired for showing up to work drunk and totally disheveled.
Isn't that like everybody at that point in time, though?
Well, he just said he was sick. And when we say, like, Edgar Allan Poe was drunk, like, I mean, like, especially drunk. Not like you or me drunk. Not like, had a few, but is still sort of coherent. No, this guy, like...
Sloppy doesn't even know where you are.
He had one drink and was fucking belligerent. Like,
Oof.
And a lot of people said, like, this could have something to do with his body chemistry, his DNA or something.
He goes straight to his head.
Yeah, like, he like, an otherwise very polite, very caring man turned into a belligerent, vulgar, disagreeable person. And no one liked him when he was drinking.
Yeah. They're like, how much did you have to drink? He's like, I had half of a peach schnapps.
Yeah, he would drink 1 glass of wine and be drunk, but he would drink to excess as well. So like he'd be a raving madman at like 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And like people would like find him in the park, like talking nonsense and like wearing rags and shit. Like the night had not been kind to him. You know?
Yeah. Flipping his roommate out of his mattress at like 3 a.m. and wanting to wrestle and mumbling stuff about Chuck Norris. Yeah.
A little bit like that.
I lived with an Edgar Allan Poe type at one point in time in my life.
But he would always just say, I was sick. I'm sorry. I wasn't myself.
Your game show made me sick.
They're like, you weren't fucking sick, man. You were drunk as a skunk, man. You know? So, Muddy wrote, Maria Clem, his aunt, wrote Edgar to tell him that Edgar's older cousin was going to be Virginia's guardian. She was going to go stay with him. He was going to give her an education and marry her to a well-off, you know, guy in a nice family, you know, so she could be rich, right?
And you have to marry her. I have to marry her off to a well-to-do gentleman. Oof.
Well, Edgar,
she is not a looker.
Edgar lost his mind when he heard this. He plunged into hysterics and depression, and he was like, no, she can't leave, because like for Edgar, like losing family members was something constant. Losing people he cared about, especially women, was constant for him, and he didn't want to lose the women that were important to his life. So he straight up said, like, no, you can't have that happen. I'm going to marry Virginia.
Oh, okay, so he did want to marry his cousin.
Oh, yes.
So she was a looker.
She was... let me get into it. Let me get into it and see how you feel about this.
Am I going to regret the things I just said?
I've regretted a lot of things. First thing I do is when I get up in the morning is regret something.
Well, he went back to Baltimore. He begged her, you know, everyone not to let this happen. Muddy agreed to let Edgar marry Virginia. And I think the reason why is because, like, she didn't want to break up the family, and I think that's why Edgar
that's
was
one way to fucking keep the family together.
Yeah. So, on September 22nd, 1835...
The day before my son's birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In 1835.
Yeah, your son's old as shit.
Edgar Allan Poe and Virginia Clem, who was his first cousin, were married. She had just turned 13 a month earlier, and Edgar Allan Poe was 26.
I don't see... Okay, that's fine. Where does it become an issue, Jerry?
They're married. There was a witness, an unnamed witness, that said that lied and said that Virginia was 22. And whoever the justice of the peace was like, all right.
Shit,
it's like there's plenty of 22-year-olds that are still into collecting dolls.
13 years old, my friend. 13 years old, married to...
I'm going to be honest, there are not too many 13-year-olds that can pass for 22.
I don't even know if she could, but...
the guy knew.
Yeah,
didn't give a shit.
Yeah. But everyone is like, yeah, this is what we're doing.
I think
like,
and
the guy's like... And I just imagine, like, the guy being like, all right. You know?
Poe's like, trust me, it's cool. I'm actually I'm running for Congress in Florida. And he's like, oh, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
Take that, Gates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking pedophile.
Yeah. Bill Gates.
Talking about Matt
I know
Gates.
you're talking about Matt Gates.
But Bill Gates might also be a pedophile, so...
Probably. They all are.
Now, there's a couple of things I do want to make clear. Historians do disagree on Virginia and Edgar's relationship. But it is widely accepted that there is no evidence that Edgar was anything but caring, thoughtful, and sweet to Virginia.
Specifically in the bedroom when they had sex all the time. It was gross.
Well, the thing is there's no record of it. I mean, they did have...
Who keeps a record of all the times they have sex?
I know, but everyone said that, like, they played games together, he taught her algebra, he was very nice to her.
Like, I visited, and they didn't have sex in front of me.
Yeah, I know. I'm just telling you what we have to go on.
I have never seen any of you guys have sex.
This is a good point.
We've been friends for a really long time. It's pretty weird.
Whether or not we know whether or not their marriage was consummated, everyone since this happened has been whispering about it. So who knows? Because it was weird then, but it was allowed to happen then, right? That's the only difference between now and then.
It was weird then. It's criminal now.
It's criminal now. It was allowed to happen then.
As it should be.
Yes, it was allowed to happen then. That's the difference.
It was the world's first...
But it was weird.
Will they, won't they? I sure hope they won't. Relationship. Yeah, it's a real...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, a lot of people were like, okay. Because, again, first cousin, that's incest.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Right?
Well, most in human history, people were marrying their first or second cousin. So, I mean, the whole not getting married to your cousin thing is like... It's pretty recent.
You can marry a second cousin and not actually be related by blood. But a first cousin, you are. You're related to blood. Because you share a grandfather.
There were a lot of cultures that would marry first cousins.
I remember my anthropology teacher saying something about people marrying their first and second cousin, and I made a joke about flipper babies, and she scolded me.
What's flipper babies?
Because of the inbreeding. They'd have flippers for hands and she was like, most of the existence of mankind, people were marrying their first or second cousins.
That's why we're not like more transcendent beings.
Maybe
that's why we're still arguing about vaccines and dumb shit.
So wait, I thought you were saying we're not transcendent beings because we stopped fucking our cousins.
No, because we did through most of human history.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're so darn attractive.
That's a Simpsons reference.
Shelbyville.
Yep. that was
someone's attractive cousin.
Yeah.
So, well, you gotta admit they are attractive.
I also like this whole journey was as useless as that lemon-shaped yellow rock. Wait, there's a lemon behind that rock. Yeah. Simpsons was great.
But I do want to make it clear that everyone said that he viewed her, even if you read their correspondence, he viewed her as a cousin, as a sister, and as a wife. Sort of all in one. I personally, and I'm not trying to like make excuses or anything, I personally don't think he did that. However,
you don't think they banged?
I don't. However, there is a story that he wrote where a guy marries his own cousin who was much younger, and they do bang.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
that story's about how much he wanted to bang
I
his
think
wife.
it's about how much he wanted to bang his cousin.
See, that story...
But I don't think he did. I think it's a...
I'm gonna be honest. I thought he did this whole time.
I think it's a fantasy. Yeah.
When you told me that he wrote a story about it, I'm like, oh, no, he didn't. But he wanted to.
He wanted to, but I don't think he did.
The only thing that kept him from fucking his cousin was cowardice.
I think he was too soft.
Well,
is that literally what I just said?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
By the sound of things, I think
he wanted to.
I think he was rock hard. And I think it was a dead giveaway that the name of that story that he wrote was called, It'd Be Cool, ...
It'd be super cool if you guys were okay with ...
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
See, you know what I'm saying? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Oh my god.
Hey, he's the one who married his fucking cousin.
I know.
I'm not the monster here.
I know.
I don't have any first cousins to marry, unfortunately. Otherwise...
I have first cousins, but I wouldn't marry any of them, because I'm not crazy.
No.
I have first cousins that I wouldn't marry because I don't think they're very attractive.
Yeah.
That's fair. And you're also not crazy.
I feel like it would be a real, like a real trading down, because I prefer at least a lateral move, so.
That's fair.
Now, Edgar Allan Poe was a self-destructive man.
You don't say.
And he was very aware of it.
The guy who married his cousin.
Yeah. And every time shit was looking up for him, got into West Point.
He would fuck it up for himself.
Yeah, he went to University of Virginia. He fucked it up for himself. And he knew it.
It sounds like me, man.
Yeah. I anticipated that one. I don't know why. But
Chris is going to relate to that.
Yeah. He wrote about this because he was very interested in science. He wrote about this urge to sort of self-sabotage. And he called it the imp of the perverse.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the one thing that he said that science couldn't explain, is why people act against their own self-interest. And he's like, there's no real explanation for it.
I mean, I agree. I mean, Look at Trump voters.
Yeah, right? Yeah. And he knew that he had that inside of himself.
And they didn't have Facebook back then.
No.
He so would have voted for Trump. He'd be like, Hillary was trading, child brides
on Wayfair
under
a pizza place. I was like, you have a child bride.
Yeah.
He had
a child bride that was his cousin.
You're like, we should just move right past that at this point.
Well, it's not going anywhere.
Much like his sexual advances towards his cousin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I
mean, he married her and he couldn't even fucking stick the landing.
He's like, oops, my robe fell off.
Now you're...
Would you like me to cover myself?
Him for not?
I'm glad he didn't, but I now believe it wasn't out of, the goodness of his heart being like, I would never. It was, I want to so bad, but I don't have the balls.
And then
which is worse.
Is it bad that I want a sitcom that's just
stick the line?
It's Poe living and married to his cousin child bride, and he's just constantly.
Did he ever have kids?
No.
Oh yeah.
Trying to groom her.
I guarantee.
Okay, fine.
Sorry.
What?
I was just saying I want to watch a sitcom that's Poe and his child bride cousin, and he's trying to groom her, but she's not having it. He's like, I left some erotica out on the counter. Could you hand it to me? Did you look at it? She's like, no, I didn't look at it. It's just pictures of people fucking know. Get out of here.
They're etchings. They're drawings.
He's like, did you not find them erotic?
Quite flattering.
She's like, dude, stop trying to fucking groom me, you fucking weird old pervert. And he's like, all right.
You know who would love that show?
Point one, you.
Chris K. You know who would love that show? John K. Who?
The Ren and Stimpy guy who groomed several of his fans. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Underage. He groomed several underage fans.
He was the Edgar Allan Poe of the Nickelodeon era.
There was a hilarious story.
Edgar Allan Poe wishes it was John K.
There was a hilarious story of Virginia and Edgar playing leapfrog with each other, and Edgar splitting his pants. And Virginia thought that was so funny that Edgar has split his pants while they were playing leapfrog.
It's like, I messed it up again.
I'm never gonna get laid.
Yeah. Now, he did get his job back at the Southern Messenger in Richmond.
Okay.
He was writing literary reviews and things like that, and he had a reputation as being scathing and ruthless as a reviewer. He would read shit and be like, and people would call him straight up the Hatchet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they tear him apart to make himself feel better.
Yeah, and
until he read a short story that was really good, and then he found out it was written by a rat.
Okay. Is it a Ratatouille thing?
It's a Ratatouille thing.
Okay.
Okay. Is it Christopher Lee who's the food critic who's real mean?
That's right.
It? Yeah.
Was that Christopher Lee?
Yeah.
Now it gave him that reputation and it increased readership, but it didn't win him any friends. It certainly didn't do that. But around this time, he actually published his first and only novel. The only novel, which I did read, by the way, for this episode. It's called The Narrative of Arthur Gordon Pym of Nantucket.
You could really name him.
I heard about a guy from Nantucket.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now I want you guys to stick with me on this one. Now, when word got back about the Essex, about the tragedy of the Essex, it was around this time, and it really entered the American consciousness around this time.
This connects to a lot of our episodes.
It does, doesn't it? And I think, because this book is about a guy that goes to sea, they get shipwrecked, they have to cast lots to figure out who they're going to eat, right? Because they're on the ocean and starving to death. And they eat a man, then they get rescued. It's a weird book. And then they go to Antarctica. And the whole time I was reading it, I was like,
bit of a
I bet our listeners would dig this book.
Yeah.
Because it just has everything that we like to talk about in it.
Yeah.
It's like a couple episodes of HistoryBoiz all slapped together.
Edgar Allan Poe wrote it.
Yeah.
You know, it just seems like, damn, this was like almost made way beforehand for the HistoryBoiz listeners.
Mm-hmm.
There you
Just
go.
saying. It's a bizarre book, and it doesn't... The ending is not satisfying, I will let you know that. But it is weird, it is bizarre, and it has a bunch of shit just packed into it that I think you would like, honestly.
I hope it like the ending is disappointing because it just kind of ends.
That's pretty much it. And like,
it's like, and then they all moved on. And you're like, wait, what?
No, that's pretty much how it ends.
It's like
where it's like, so the guy's still alive and he's in this area, and like Edgar Allan Poe tries to like give it like a meta thing where he's like, I've entrusted my manuscript to Edgar A. Poe. You know, you know, kind of
some
thing.
Lord of the Rings bullshit.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, dude, I don't know. It's not as good as like his seminal works, but if you're a fan of the show, you might really like this book. Anyway, he moved around a lot with his new family, with Muddy and with Virginia.
sloppy.
And he was rarely employed, and he was rarely making good money.
And rarely sober.
The money he did make, he drank away, and they were straight up starving. The whole family was straight up starving. They were cold in all the places they lived in.
Well, that's just women, man. They're always cold, man.
Yeah.
It's like, just put on a blanket, man.
Oh.
Well, it's like...
Women, am I right, guys?
Yeah.
Welcome to the
Jesus
Brocast.
Christ.
I got criticized for making fun of my wife because I was believed that everyone was like, oh, this guy loves his wife so much. He's being ironic. But turns out you don't know me, and you don't know my wife.
It's true.
So...
You were being critical of the fact that she's always cold?
Yeah, I mean, I did... You know, I mean,
It was
when
a
people
dream.
were like, man, it's really cold in here, I'd be like, yeah, it's just my wife's heart beating in the other room.
Whoa, that's so mean-spirited.
I didn't come up with that.
Mean-spirited.
But
Super
pretty funny. Yeah.
I didn't come up with that.
It should be on TBS because it's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Was that you doing Joe Caliendo?
Yes.
Or Frank Caliendo?
Frank, yeah, whatever his name is.
Frank Caliendo. He does all the...
I do all the
He's
voices.
got some bits
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
skits. And
He's some
He does an
jokes.
excellent John Madden and some other characters.
he does the best John Madden.
He does a great John Madden.
His John Madden is very funny.
Second to none.
Welcome to the Caliendo cast.
He does a good Terry Bradshaw.
Oh, yeah.
Because he was on the football show for a long time.
Oh, yeah. Not a
Anyway.
lot of people do football guys that well.
No.
I would imagine that Frank Caliendo likes football.
Well, he got a job on the football TV show or whatever, the pregame show, so he had to make fun of the guys on the show.
I don't fucking watch football. I had to look up what sport the Baltimore Ravens played today.
Fair enough.
Someone needs to learn their basketball teams.
Yeah.
Now, he around this time, he started writing more stories and getting them published. He, again, with his keen interest in science, he wrote a story about a guy that gets in a hot air balloon and goes to the moon.
Mm-hmm.
Because the world at this
Good
time,
science. Yeah.
the world at this time was actually balloon crazy. Everyone loved everything to do with balloons back in the day. They loved it. They loved all balloon
99
stuff.
loved balloons.
Lafayette even he loved balloons. Everyone loved balloons back in the day. They were like, this is great.
Yeah, wait till they see the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
It's full of balloons.
Yeah. Wait till they see nuclear weapons.
Wait till they see the movie Up. They're gonna shit their pants.
Yeah, right? Yeah, just a bunch of balloons.
The Up House is a 20-minute walk from my house.
Yeah.
The original Up House.
Yeah.
By the way. So now you guys know where I live. Fuck that out.
They can pinpoint.
Which is ironic because the woman who lived in it died a while ago, so...
But the house is still there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The house is up, the lady's down. 6 feet under.
Nice. He also published an ode to science.
Oh.
And a big thing he would do is he would solve puzzles and ciphers that people would send him. And he would publish the secrets and the answers to it, like all these logic puzzles and stuff like that. And it was around this time he also invented the detective novel with the murders in the Rue Morgue. That had never existed. Sherlock Holmes came afterwards as an inspiration off of Murders in the Rue Morgue.
Yeah. Ian Fleming fucking stole that shit.
Yeah, I thought it was Arthur Conan Doyle.
Yeah,
right.
Ian Fleming's
James
James Bond. Yeah, that
Which
was
is
much
the
later.
spy novel.
Yeah, well, same sort of thing. More action and spy novel, but if there's a mystery or anything like that, where the reader is engaged to try to come up with the same answer as the detective in the book, then you're reading something that is directly influenced from Edgar Allan Poe. He's the first one who started
Knives Out.
Yeah, Knives Out. That is from Edgar Allan Poe.
I'll buy that.
Directly influenced.
You hear that, Agatha Christie? You're a fucking
Yep.
hack.
Piece
More
of
like
shit.
Hackathah Christie.
She defined that whole genre.
I know that's.
She perfected that genre,
I agree,
my friend.
Jerry. Fuck her.
You don't have to defend your girlfriend Agatha Christie. It's not like she's listening to the.
I want to do an episode on Agatha Christie because she has a weird life.
Okay, well,
Anyway. And I think you actually might like her quite a bit when we're done.
I'm sure I will. I'm just giving you shit.
I know you.
She's clearly a very popular writer. She's done a lot of things.
Now, for a while, he was seeing moderate success at Graham's magazine in Philadelphia, even though the editor had reservations about his writing style and like the horrific shit that he would write about. But during this time, he wrote some of his most timeless classics. He wrote The Pit and the Pendulum. He wrote The Black Cat, The Fall of the House of Usher. In this, he also wrote a few of these were in his collection called The Tales of the Grotesque and Arabesque.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
And Arabesque basically back then just meant sort of otherworldly. Not here, basically, is what it meant.
There's one that didn't get published because it was called The Guy who Horrifically Murders his editor for not wanting to publish his stories. And he's like, is this about me? And Poe's like, nah, man, it's just a coincidence.
You're like, here's another one about how a guy wants to have sex with his cousin.
And murder his editor.
Now, through a friend of a friend, he actually secured a meeting with President John Tyler.
Oh!
Cool last name. He's got a cool last name.
Yeah, because Poe proclaimed himself to be of the Whig Party, right? And he was going to try. He was going to try to land a job as at the Philadelphia Customs House collector. Now, remember, Chet Arthur was the collector of the New York Customs House. It is a cush job, my friend. You keep banker's hours, you do almost nothing, and you make a shit ton of money. And for Ed Poe, this could have been a time to write like all of his cool shit and make a shit ton of money sitting on his ass.
I was wondering...
And honestly, it looked like a slam dunk at the time.
How'd he fuck it up?
I was wondering if, in some way, Roscoe Conkling would be involved in the story.
He's not.
Tertiarily.
Yeah, tertiarily, a little bit.
A little bit.
Just the customs house.
Because yeah.
Yeah, sort of. But when he went to the meeting, he showed up drunk, disheveled. His cape was on inside out.
He was wearing a cape?
Yeah.
He was also...
he was
wearing a cape?
He was a Southern gentleman. Even when in his most dire times, where he was really poor, if he ever went to like a high society gathering, because he did get to that level. he wouldn't have a shirt on underneath his coat, but he'd just button it all the way up to his throat. And he would act very polite, you know, and society-like. And he knew how to do that. And people were like, oh, this guy's great, you know? Until he got drunk. And then it was all out the fucking window.
He drank one wine spritzer and he's losing his goddamn mind.
Yeah, he wrote a letter saying, like, hey, sorry, and the letter's kind of funny because you kind of miss what happened. But he's like, don't believe everything I said. Sorry about my cape being inside out.
Sorry about wearing a cape.
Well, he goes... I drank all that amazing port wine. I washed it down with that rum coffee, and dude, I just apologize. I said some stupid shit, and they were like, "Why don't you come back later?" And they never got back to him.
You know what happened?
He fucked it up for himself.
He got drunk, and then his drunk persona
Yeah.
knew that if he became sober, the drunk version of himself would die. So he was telling him, you need to drink this, you need to drink that, you need to find something. You need to find something to keep me alive, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. You guys know what I'm talking about, right?
The imp of the perverse. Yeah. That's what Poe called it.
Yeah.
That little voice in her head that's like...
It's like...
It's like Kermit with like the hood on.
Yeah.
That's the imp of the perverse.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, where it's like, drink more.
It's like, find something.
Yeah.
You're only gonna sober up from now on.
Yeah, tell this guy he's an idiot.
Is that what you want?
Yeah, is that what you want?
You want to be more sober?
Yeah.
Because it's gonna suck.
You're gonna be hungover.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're already eating a Big Mac and fries. You might as well just get some nuggets too.
Yeah, exactly.
You've ordered McDonald's on DoorDash.
Yeah. You're gonna pay...
no going...
You're about to pay $65 for McDonald's.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah. He resigned from Graham's magazine, even though he had a good thing going, because he just couldn't take the fact that he was sort of whoring out his brain for money. He couldn't take it.
Yeah.
And he thought that he deserved better.
What's the alternative? Fucking
he was
construction
sort
work?
of homeless. Drunk, and his family was starving and freezing.
Oh, yeah, that's way better.
Yeah.
Than making money creatively.
Yeah. Where you can sort of have a creative outlet.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
It's like going to film school and making corporate videos.
Yeah. And then on the side, making the stuff you like.
Yeah.
Like a podcast. He should have had a podcast.
I bet he would have enjoyed it.
I thought you were going to say like a pizza. Frozen.
You can make a frozen pizza.
Time's a commodity here.
Yeah.
We've got time to let that dough rise.
Yeah. This is a worry that he must have had. He loved pizza. So Edgar bopped around again with his family in abject poverty. Mm-hmm. He shopped around his own idea for his own literary magazine that he first wanted to call The Pen, but he later wanted to call The Stylus. Ooh. And he was always like trying to get like subscribers and stuff, like a subscriber base before he launched it, like funding to do it, but it never materialized. And he did it several times during his life, pretty much through his whole life, and it never really worked out for him. Yeah, he saw himself as a failure because of this.
Because he is.
I think this happens with a lot of creative types.
I'm doing great.
It's tragic. A man named Rufus Griswold.
Okay.
He hired Poe because he bought.
Was he a rich man?
He was a cartoon bear.
He bought Graham's magazine, and he hired Poe back.
So yes, he was a rich man.
Well, he wanted to get the readership back, because wherever Poe went, he increased readership. He gave the people what they wanted. You know what I mean?
Oh, they like that spooky shit.
They like the spooky shit. They like the weird shit.
That's why we do Spooky Month.
And yeah,
spooky season.
And people liked his fucking just scathing reviews of other shit. You know,
he's like Simon Cowell
in a lot of ways. Yeah, people liked it.
If Simon Cowell could also make good music, then he would be like.
So you know what he was like is
Gordon Ramsay.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes.
He's like Gordon Ramsay in a lot of ways. Only he's a massive alcoholic. And he married
jury's still out.
Yeah. Griswold actually, he was like, yeah, man, I'm gonna help you launch the Stylus, dude. once you kind of like get up, once we kind of get this whole thing moving, and Poe's like, okay, but it soon became apparent that Griswold wasn't gonna launch the career of his like star writer. You know what I mean?
Plus, he wanted to go on a Christmas vacation. So.
Yeah. So Poe quit from that job, and they left on bad terms, and Griswold never forgot that, and it like. And honestly, that's kind of how Poe was. He had sort of a slash and burn approach to his friendships.
He's a big fan of burning bridges.
Yeah, he was. He was. He went to New York. He went to a lot of places, and he accused Henry Wadsworth Longfellow of plagiarism. Longfellow was totally adored by the American public at this time, and so that didn't give him any favors. And Longfellow didn't even respond, but a lot of people were like, dude, you're just jealous because Longfellow is highborn. He's a professor at Harvard. This dude, he's a great writer and stuff. And Poe's he's only got there because he was born rich. Fuck that guy, And he had some animosity towards those kind of people. So he's you copied one of my poems,
It's like Crowley and Oscar Wilde.
A little bit, yeah, a little bit.
Wait, did he plagiarize him, or is it just baseless accusation?
They had both baseless accusations, but Poe and Longfellow, these were completely baseless. Poe was being paranoid and jealous, and that's why he said it, and Longfellow just didn't engage, as a mentally healthy person should do.
Yeah.
Just, when a crazy person is calling you all sorts of names and shit that's not true, it's best to just not engage with that person, because there's nothing to gain there.
God, it must have been so easy before Twitter.
Well, I mean, yeah, because it's easy to just sort of get in your own head and get pissed off. But the thing is if and this goes to every creative type, if you're getting bad comments on YouTube or on Twitter or whatever the fuck it may be, always keep this not what would Jesus do, but what would a mentally healthy person do. And the mentally healthy person would either not engage or just totally let it go.
And if you're mentally healthy, you should delete all of your social media. But if you're one of our listeners, you're probably not mentally healthy. So don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and follow us on all the socials.
Even though the Poe was famous by now, and he wrote some of his more timeless classics, A Telltale Heart, The Cask of Amontillado.
I like those too.
And all of these things, he was still living in poverty, and he resented this idea that he could still be paid pennies and be one of the most recognized writers in the United States at the time, and even in
Didn't
Europe.
he reject a bunch of money, being
He did, because he was too proud.
What
He was too
idiot.
proud. I know. It's the improv of the perverse. And honestly, in The Cask of Amontillado, I love that story so much. But if you notice, Montresor, gives Fortunato every chance to leave that he can, which is sort of ironic, because he makes it seem like he doesn't want to kill Fortunato. And of course, how is Fortunato? He's dressed like a jester.
Like he's a jester, yeah.
And he's drunk. And it's almost like a fantasy of Poe burying the irresponsible ignoramus
that's a good point.
of Fortunato behind this wall and sort of forgetting about him, because
It makes sense.
he was aware of it and he knew about it and he wanted to get rid of it, you know what I mean? And so there is this thing of him leaving behind this imp of the perverse that he could never really actually come to terms with.
Or maybe he was just writing a fantasy of I wish one of my rich friends would murder me.
Bury me behind
I
the wall.
doubt that. He was too smart for that. Anyway,
Fair enough.
And there is a constant thing of duality in all of his stories. There's one where he writes about a doppelganger. There's the fact that there are twins in a lot of his stories. The Fall of the House of Usher, there's twins in the story, and there's evil and there's good, and they're constantly fighting, and it always ends in ruin. It's sort of, people always look at Poe and they're like, well, his life is represented in his work, and that's like a half-truth. It is there. It does come from his life, but it is hidden in literature. You know what I mean? And he knew how to do it. He even wrote a whole thing about how to write good poetry and how to write good literature. That he supposedly,
Supposedly?
you just can't really trust him so much. Poe, I get it. But you can't really trust him that much when he's like, this is how you do it. This is how I did it. You know, it's like, okay, because he was as much of a flim-flam a little bit as other people sometimes.
Flim-flam man.
Yeah.
A little bit, yeah. And like there was a guy...
snake oil salesman.
Yeah, there was a guy in town that had an automaton.
Ooh.
And he claimed that his automaton could play chess. Now that is sophisticated. If your automaton can win at chess against chess masters, that's really sophisticated work. You know what I mean? And Poe was like one of the first people to call bullshit.
It's like is this like World's Fair shit? Like
it's like a traveling dude.
Yeah.
And he was like, dude, no. Automatons, and he like broke it down, and he's like, there's gears inside, man. There's all this shit. There's no possible way that with all the gears and stuff, you could possibly predict and make all the moves in order to win in chess. And he was right. There was a little person inside of the box underneath the automaton that was actually playing the chess.
I've heard that story.
Right?
Oh man,
that's a World's Fair thing. Like that wasn't that.
He was a traveling.
Yeah, no, I know that story. That's great.
But before. Automatons were big back then. You know, automatons would weigh...
the people inside of them, on the other hand, were quite small.
Like R2-D2?
Yeah, R2-D2, man.
Yeah, Kenny Baker, rest in peace. The original Flim Flam.
The original...
I was going to say the original automaton. But Flim Flam, man.
He was trying to sell brain pills to all the other members of the Star Wars.
It's like, this will make you think much clearer, man. I take them every day.
It's like, here's...
And look at me.
Brain?
Why do you think I'm so good at chess?
I'm R2-D2. I have a science mind.
I can do no wrong in this movie. Well, early in 1842, in January, Virginia, who was a good singer, was singing for the family.
Like to do.
Because they all enjoyed it, and she enjoyed singing. She, quote, burst a blood vessel, end quote. And while singing, Virginia did. And she started coughing up blood. And it was the first sign, of course,
of TB,
of tuberculosis.
The consumption.
And once she was diagnosed with that, Edgar descended into despair and depression.
It's like his main thing.
Because he knew that it was a death sentence. He'd watched several other people that he was close to die of it.
Why does everyone I love die of TB? Yeah. Because it's the 19th century.
Exactly, yeah.
They all died of TB.
Yeah. Except
and you're
for him.
probably going to die of TB. No, I mean...
Oh, not anymore. Now you just get some bed rest, you're fine.
Yeah. My grandma had TB. She's alive.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it was around this time that he actually published his story, The Mask of the Red Death, where a group of rich people have a big party during a pandemic and they all die of the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's about.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. I know.
Very
Sounds
timely.
like the Sturgis motorcycle rally.
Yeah. Sounds like Trump rallies.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah. Minus the rich people.
Yeah, exactly. It's a rich man telling you, don't worry about it, and then poor people die. It's sort of a flipsy-doopsy.
Darker than
it's almost
story.
worse. Yeah, it's way worse, honestly.
They're like, oh, don't worry about it at all, and then they all get the fucking vaccine, and then people are like, yeah.
Well, the thing is rich people will survive COVID because they can afford to be on a ventilator and be in the hospital as long as they need, but poor people, of course, cannot. And most people that have died of COVID are poor people because they cannot afford to be in the hospital for extended periods of time. So that's why mostly poor people have died. Unlike this story, where it's actually sort of cathartic to hear a bunch of rich people dying of the pandemic.
Rich people dying will always be fucking hilarious.
Poe hated rich people.
I hate rich people. Like, the act of being a billionaire is an immoral act.
It is.
If you have $1 billion...
But like everything in this country, if this country says... If it said it said, well, the law said I could not do it, so I'm doing it, then you can do it.
Yes.
It's like there's no laws saying I can't.
Yeah.
You know, this is why certain...
That's the real problem.
Yeah, it's like, you know, that's why you're allowed to do
That's why, like, fucking Bezos and Musk are able to get away with whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah, or anything going into the future. If there's no laws to protect it, and that's all it is. Like, American law is all reactionary.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah, go for it until there's unintended consequences.
Way late.
And then you gotta make laws. Yeah, and they're way late to it.
Or you don't.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we keep having shootings every 2 days.
Well, like copyright laws or Napster or anything like that. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh yeah, go for it. Oh, you made a bunch of money off of other people's work? Oh, now we gotta...
Wait, are you taking money from rich people? Then let's make laws.
Right.
Are poor people dying?
Nah, forget it. Exactly. And during the next few years, Virginia would have ups and downs. Mm-hmm. She survived several years of TB. There were times where she'd have like months where Edgar thought she was going to survive and overcome it, and then she would have weeks where she was going to die. And it was this up and down. It was a personal hell for Edgar, and he was drinking a lot. He was just totally in despair over Virginia dying.
Every time her health was turning around, he'd be like, "Once you're healthy enough, we will finally consummate our marriage." And she's like, "The tuberculosis is intensifying."
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, "Oh, raspberries."
She died the eve before her 18th birthday.
He actually packed up his family and moved to the Bronx, New York, while she was sick.
Yeah, kicking with the AOC, that's cool.
Yeah, they lived in a cottage, which is still there, called the Edgar Allan Poe cottage to this day. But it was drafty, and they were starving. And I do mean starving. And she was just bedridden. And it was super drafty, and he's like, "I wish I could keep her warm." And she was just dying, and there was nothing he could do, so he just drank it away. And it's a spiral that was completely out of control.
As she's dying, he's like, "I wish there was something I could do to keep you warm." She's like, "Yeah, you probably shouldn't have just like left every job that ever threw you a bone, you turd."
Yeah, exactly. Alienated, and fucked shit up, when you could have made shit better. But even still, in 1845, he published the poem that would make him a household name for generations.
Oh, I know this one.
The Raven.
Oh, never mind. I thought it was that Nantucket limerick.
Yeah. Yep. No.
Now, chances are you probably know how The Raven begins, right? Mm-hmm. "Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered,
weak and weary,
over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, while I nodded, nearly tapping, suddenly there came
a
tapping.
Oh yeah, it's from The Crow. I remember that.
As of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. 'Tis some visitor, I muttered, tapping at my chamber door. Only this!
And nothing more. Yeah, I pulled it up.
They both have screens. I don't have a screen. That's why I didn't read along.
Yeah.
I didn't want to make them embarrassed with how...
Well, Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered weak and weary. Most people remember that.
Now that you say it, I remember all of it. It's just... I need to do a reread of all my Poe.
Forgive me if I'm wrong. Essentially, it's about the idea of being...
hassled.
It's dealing with loss.
No, dealing with loss and hoping...
Vain.
Almost the audacity of hope.
Yes,
the idea of, like... This person you love is dead. And just hoping and just wanting them back so bad
that you talk to a bird.
That a messenger is telling you, a messenger that is dark and scary and all this, telling you, no, that won't happen, dude.
Well, the thing is it's only a bird that was probably trained to say one thing. Nevermore. Right? Which you can't say without Poe coming to mind, right? Mm-hmm. That's how deep in the consciousness it is. And it's crazy too.
But he takes the meaning that he personally that makes him lose his mind is the idea
that you can reason with it. Or
he's trying to reason with the bird.
Right.
But the bird and the message that the bird is telling him is that
there's nothing you can do.
There's nothing you can do, and he can't handle that.
Right.
And despite the fact that it's a fucking bird, he is trying to argue.
Yeah.
Argue with the bird because he cannot handle the loss. Right?
Exactly.
He cannot handle the loss.
Yeah.
That's essentially... Right?
Yeah.
Reasoning with a bird's
Exactly.
a huge waste of time. It's the reason why I'm not allowed at Sesame Street anymore.
I was
The
yelling
film
at...
set?
Yeah, I owe some characters some money.
Oscar the Grouch is like, next time you see that Tyler Armentrout, tell him to give me my $200 back.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. It's like Oscar's kind of the money guy, but the muscle, that's Big Bird.
Oh, yeah. They call him Big for a reason. He has a heart of gold, but he will knock your teeth out. And Poe actually claimed to have written this story methodically, and he published a whole thing about this is how I touched on this earlier, but this is how you do it. You write it methodically. It's sort of this left brain sort of, this is sort of how you do it. It's a formula. It's a formula to writing good literature. It's kind of bunk. You know what I mean? He was a very creative person. He wasn't giving himself enough credit for his creativity. He was trying to boil it down to a science, because this time was big in the explosion of science that was happening at the time. So he tried to make it science. And he actually got his big old head examined by a phrenologist as well.
And then was immediately put into an asylum.
The other night I was Googling phrenology to try to make some sense of it.
It's a bunch of bonkers bullshit.
I don't know. Like,
it's like reading a crystal ball, only it's someone's skull.
But like all the different maps are different
so
every time,
yeah.
and it's like
hucksters, man.
It's like all of these bumps in my head, and I'm like, what does this spell mean?
But
I thought it'd be funny to try to figure it out.
It was pretty accepted.
I think it didn't matter what the map said, because if no matter what the shape of your head was, if the skin on your head was darker, you were probably... They're like, oh, the phrenology says you're a criminal. Just send him to jail.
Yeah.
Mm.
You're dumb and you're a criminal.
Well, they have that part in Django Unchained where he talks about the skull.
Yeah, and he's like, this means you're okay with being a slave.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like, yeah, that's pretty much like the whole crux. That's the crux of
that's
phrenology.
What he's doing. Yeah.
It is rooted in racism.
We need a way to justify our morally reprehensible, repugnant behavior.
Yeah, phrenology is the best example of people going, hey, slavery is not right. Can you give me a justification for it so I can sleep at night?
Yeah.
And they're like, it has to do with brains and skulls. And they're like, okay, thank you.
That sounds great.
That's a big relief. I'll keep doing
these
what I'm doing.
people have different skull shapes, so they demand to be subjugated.
Exactly. You know it's bullshit if they were measuring fucking Poe's big old melon. They're like, ain't nothing wrong here, buddy.
Yeah, it's all sorts of fucked up.
Shows up blackout drunk wearing a backwards cape. Inside out MC Hammer shirt.
Yeah. He's like, I barely made it here. Yeah, I got lost in the park.
You read my book?
Yeah. He actually gave public readings of this, and it terrified people. The Raven horrified people. People had nightmares about the Raven. It took the country by storm.
Truth is, it's a solid poem. It's dope.
It really is. It's amazing. Honestly, I love Poe's works. Mm-hmm. And The Raven is why we read Poe, any of his short stories today as well. And straight up, like, kids would follow him down the street and dare each other to, like, tap him on the shoulder or, like, flap at him.
Who is that tapping?
Yeah, and call him the Raven and stuff, like that kind of thing. Like, he became sort of a scary man. Even people called him the Raven. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It was that big.
And he pretended like he didn't like it.
Yeah, exactly. He was paid $9 for it. That's how much money he made. Which in today's money is about $300. Made about $300 off of it. But $300 when you're living in a fucking tiny cottage in the Bronx is almost nothing. You know what I mean? You're starving. It's not a lot of money.
Should ask for more.
Mm-hmm.
Know what your work's worth.
Back then, they chose. Yeah. They chose. But he was now famous. He was famous. The thing was that was tragic, though, is Virginia eventually passed away. Mm-hmm. She passed away on January 30th, 1847. She was 24 years old. And
January 40th.
January
1827.
30th.
1847.
Yeah, January 30th, 1840. That is exactly 100 years to the day before my father was born.
Ah, that's his birthday.
Interesting.
1947 is when my father was born.
Coincidence? I think not.
No, he is a clearly reincarnation of
Edgar Allan Poe's child
Virginia Poe.
of Edgar Allan Poe's child life.
Yeah, Virginia Clem Poe. She died, and Edgar Allan Poe, in a lot of ways, it was sort of a relief, but he further spiraled out of control. His mental state degraded. Again, people would find him in parks and shit with, like, rags on, drunk as fuck, not knowing where he was.
Been there, brother.
You know, saying, speaking nonsense, that kind of thing. And it was only a year after she died where he tried to find another wife. He needed some sort of female companionship to tell him that, you know, he mattered, you know, and...
That's problematic.
To prove that, yeah, and, because again, only women were the ones that made him feel like he was worth a damn, you know, men never did. So he wrote to multiple women he wrote to, and professed love to. He actually sent the same exact letter to 3 women.
Did they?
The same love letter.
Did they all find out and be like, "Stop trying to play us"?
And then he
No, the world wasn't as small back then.
And then he accidentally scheduled 2 dates at the same restaurant on the same night. He had to change costumes.
It's a Mrs. Doubtfire situation.
Okay. That's a thing.
That's a trope.
He just wanted to see his kids.
There was a woman that had like a lyceum. She kind of was high society in New York, and she had these parties that Eddie was invited to. You know, they all loved him there. He kind of had a thing with her, kind of a fling with her. There was another woman that he had a thing with in Richmond or Baltimore, but nothing came of it because when he instantly asked her to marry him. He's like, "Marry me." Like the first time he saw her.
Oof. Coming on strong.
And
yeah.
Her mom was like, "No. This guy," and she straight up said, "Dude, if you marry my daughter, you have no claim to our family fortune. You have no claim." And he was like, "This is an outrage." And
I will see myself out.
Yeah, exactly. He saw himself out. But you know who he did hit up? Sarah Elmira Royster. Her husband was dead by this point.
Nice.
And actually, her last name wasn't Royster, it was actually Shelton. So Sarah Elmira Royster Shelton. And she was a widow.
He's like, I inspected a ton of shells, so...
Nice. They rekindled their love. He was like, "Hey, you know, let's actually get hitched again." And she was actually his age. She was 1 year younger than him.
And then he finally made love.
I've been looking forward to this.
The only
Babe.
The only way that she would agree to marry him is if he
made love to her.
Is if he...
You need to sign a contract that you will. Because my friends are making fun of me, man. Like, I'm the only one who wasn't good.
And you need to look me in the eye and tell me that I don't look like a disapproving spoon or bowling pin.
Is if he joined a temperance society.
Oh, he's gonna fucking die.
That's the exact opposite of what I was...
So he did. For several months, he got sober, and he joined a temperance society. The problem was with her is she had something called a...
tuberculosis.
God damn it!
No.
I mean, it is the 19th century.
Yeah. She had a death clause in her marriage. This is something, thank God, has been done away with. But basically, this only applied to women, but if your husband died while you were married, there's a clause sometimes that said you couldn't remarry. And if you did remarry, you were only entitled to a quarter of the estate that you inherited. So she had this clause. It's totally fucked. She had this clause in her marriage and could not remarry, and told him this and said, "Eddie, I can't remarry. I can't, man." And he goes, "We're gonna remarry." we're gonna marry.
Did you call him Eddie?
Oh, people on a personal level called him Eddie.
Eddie.
Eddie. Dude, take it easy on the whiskey. But no, he went north. He went to New York after they were quote unquote engaged. He went there presumably to tell Maria Clem Muddy the good news, even though they weren't actually married. And he was on his way back by train back to Richmond. Inexplicably, got off at Baltimore, the Baltimore station. To this day, we don't know why. We don't know why he did. There's a lot of speculation.
It's like, I want to see where the wire was made.
And, but a man found him a couple of days later, straight up in a gutter on the street, in the mud, wearing someone else's clothes that didn't fit. And he was completely delirious. He was talking nonsense, is what they said. They said he was drunk. He may or may not have been, and I'll kind of get into that. They kind of like got him up, and they're like, because there was a tavern, just like there's like the tavern, the sidewalk, the gutter he was found in. You know what I mean? And like the tavern was bustling. They're like, oh yeah, he was in here, you know, and he had a reputation, of course, you know, for being drunk and standing on tables and reciting, you know, Eureka, which was like his newest poem that was like of cosmography, where he was trying to explain the universe.
Oh yeah,
and shit, and people were like, "Oh yeah."
He mentioned the 4 elephants and the big turtle. I get it.
Right? Yeah. Actually, he's scary close to the truth. Albert
Maybe
Einstein
too close to the truth.
Well, Albert Einstein was like, I mean, it's crackpot. Not having modern science, you know, not even knowing what the moon is like. Like back in Poe's day, people thought that people lived on the moon. There was a hoax.
Cheese.
There was a hoax going around that there was creatures on the moon that you could see through a telescope, and there was a whole society on the moon. That it was disproved. But the thing is he wrote this book of cosmography that is actually sort of close to how the universe works. But the thing is he would get up on tables, drunk as fuck, and tell people about it. Anyway, they were like, he was in here. He was in here with a couple, you know, no one was really willing to talk with anyone. There was a doctor that came in that knew Poe, and they took him to the hospital, and he was sitting in bed, and he was just mumbling incoherent stuff. And he was asking for someone named Reynolds, who to this day no one knows who the fuck Reynolds was. Reynolds. And
Danny DeVito.
He just wasn't doing well. And they were like telling people like, hey, Edgar's not doing well. And he sort of like went in and out of consciousness. He came out of it a little bit on October 7th, 1849. And he was lucid enough to say, my God, help my poor soul. And he died.
Whoa.
And he was 40 years old.
40 years young.
40 years old. And
it's the new 30.
They don't know what happened to him. There is an interesting detail. I mean, people have made up reasons for why he's died. They've said rabies. They've said, you know, he was an alcoholic, dude. He fell off the wagon, you know, and finally did it. Drank himself to death. Finally did it. Some people say he got mugged, beat up, because he looked a little beat up. He didn't look good. But, I mean, for most of his life, he didn't look good.
Hey, ain't you that guy who wrote The Raven? He's like, yes, it is I, Edgar Allan Poe.
Like, every picture of him looks like he just got smacked across the face.
Well, and people say, like, the reason why his face was, like, uneven, like, maybe he had a stroke, but a lot of people say, like, he was pale, he had big, dark bags under his eyes, because he was an alcoholic.
Mm-hmm.
And it could have created, like, brain damage in his brain.
Yeah.
It could have really done some really irreparable damage to his brain, because, again, he drank hard.
Fucking badass.
But the story that I actually think is more plausible is when he got off the train in Baltimore that day, it was election day. And the thing is about elections back in these days is that politicians would pay thugs to go around and grab people off the street and kidnap them and make them vote multiple times.
Rock the vote.
One guy. This is some like Tammany Hall shit. They would dress you up in different clothes and make you vote, and they would make you drink a shit ton so you didn't know what you were doing, and so you couldn't fight back. And they'd just make you keep doing that over and over again.
Sounds kind of fun.
Well, and that's why he woke up in clothes that weren't his own, that didn't fit, and like they just discarded him when they were done. And that's why he looked maybe a little beat up, is because some thugs maybe made him vote for somebody and then tossed him away when
We
he was
got
done.
one vote from Edgar Allan Poe. One vote from Medgar Allan Moe. Another one from Edgar Allan Poe.
You know what a Poe
Edgar
was?
Allan Poe.
They were like, you're going to
do
vote
this.
for Van Buren,
Yeah.
or you're going to get fucking dead. You know the Van Buren boys, right?
Yeah,
You
right,
know.
there you go. Yeah. They were as mean as he was.
Almost as mean, almost as mean
That's
as he
right,
was.
Yeah, died very tragically under mysterious circumstances. He had one story that he was working on that was never finished, which, man, I wish was finished, because it's called...
Star Wars.
No, but you're going to love this, Chris. It's called The Lighthouse.
Ooh.
And it the way it goes, there's only a little bit surviving that we have, but the way it goes is it like the layout of it is like a journal, and it's like, knowing Poe, this guy's gonna lose his mind in a fucking lighthouse, and it's like, man, that story would have been fucking awesome.
Did Robert Eggers kind of use that idea? I feel like I actually did hear that.
I mean,
where
that's
there was an unfinished.
Yeah, but that's sort of an Americana thing of sort of losing your mind in a lighthouse.
He had to have known about that.
Yeah, and that kind of thing did happen. That was a real thing that happened.
You got bopping to the malt shop for a burger and a shake and going to make out point and going crazy in a lighthouse. That's Americana, folks.
Yeah, Americana of the time.
I know.
And but yeah, it's way like a new lighthouse keep gets to his post and describes it, and then like the next day he's like, "Yep, so I guess this is it," and then it ends very abruptly, and it's like, man, this could have this.
Yeah.
You know, you let your imagination run wild, and maybe Edgar Allan Poe was just pulling another one over on us, by leaving it unfinished. I don't know,
Piece
but
of shit.
Old Eddie. Spooky Eddie.
It's I don't know. He was a deeply flawed man, but he left us with some of the most important literary work ever written, at least in the Western Hemisphere, and certainly influential. That is still relevant to this day. And keep in mind, this is 1830s, 40s. There's shit that was written in the 1930s and 1940s that is no longer relevant. It's still relevant to us today. Every spooky season, we gotta read an Edgar Allan Poe story.
The way Edgar Allan Poe is still relevant today is like how the Beastie Boys are still relevant in the world of J.J. Abrams' Star Trek. You're like, it's the 23rd century. Why is Captain Kirk listening to Sabotage?
Right, yeah.
It's just got that kind of sting.
Music.
Yeah. He's on the classical station.
But the final insult of Poe and his tragic life came with his obituary. It was written when a one Horace Greeley, may recognize, found out about Poe's death. He commissioned one of his writers of his New York Daily Tribune to write the obituary for Edgar Allan Poe. And who was that writer but Rufus Griswold, the rival.
Yeah, a man he burnt
that bridge.
I'm gonna talk
after that man had brought him back from the brink.
Yeah, and Rufus Griswold wrote this scathing obituary of Edgar Allan Poe that would tarnish Edgar Allan Poe's reputation for almost a century. Long time before people were like, hey, no, this isn't exactly true, what he's saying here. Here's what he said, quote, Edgar Allan Poe is dead. He died in Baltimore the day before yesterday. This announcement will startle many, but few will be grieved by it. The poet was well known, personally or by reputation, in all this country. He had readers in England and in several of the states of continental Europe, but he had few or no friends. And the regrets of his death will be suggested principally by the consideration that in him literary art has lost one of its most brilliant but erratic stars. And he goes on to accuse Poe of being a wife-beating drunk, of being a total piece of shit, basically, who had no friends, who was not well-liked. None of that is true because...
And had a little dick.
Yeah, none of that is true because he definitely married his child bride cousin, but he never beat her. He was a drunk, but I think a lot of that had to do with his physiology, had a lot to do with his DNA. Mm-hmm. His father's problems with alcohol, his brother's problems with alcohol.
His liver was as small as his head was big.
Yeah, there you go. And he had many friends, and many people mourned his death. And in other papers, many people did eulogize him, and did give him that. But this is the obituary that people remembered throughout time.
Yeah, because it's fucking...
And the thing is about Griswold... Yeah, and the thing is about him is that Griswold was also jealous of Poe. Because Poe was remembered. Poe had The Raven. He had all these stories that were beloved by the American people.
Instant classics.
Exactly. Instant classics. Instant classics. To this day, they're classics. And Griswold is remembered for not liking Edgar Allan Poe, and that's it. We don't read any of his stories. We read none of his poetry.
He also reminded us to always put out forest fires. Because he's a cartoon bear.
Okay.
I get it.
I'm sorry, Rufus Griswold's either like a basset hound or a cartoon bear. There's no way that he's a man.
No.
Honestly, I haven't really read it until I'm looking at it now.
He should be played by F. Murray Abraham.
Yeah, right, right.
I know, because it's Amadeus, but
like he goes on to talk shit about Annabelle Lee and how like he's like, yeah, he beat his wife. He's like he shit. They're both shit together. He goes, quote,
quite the diss track.
We must omit any particular criticism of Mr. Poe's works. As a writer of tales, it will be admittedly generally that he was scarcely surpassed in ingenuity of construction or effective painting. As a critic, he was more remarkable as a dissector of sentences than as a commentator upon ideas. He was little better than a carping grammarian.
He roasted him.
Here's the last line. Here's the last line. This is fucked. The last line. This is how people remembered you for almost a whole century before they were like, "Oh, what the fuck, dude?" Quote, "We have not learned of the circumstance of his death. It was sudden, and from the fact that it occurred in Baltimore, it is to be presumed that he was on his return to New York. After life's fitful fever, he sleeps well." And it's like, man, fuck you, dude. Like,
when I die, if I die before you guys, I want you to roast me that hard in my obituary.
You know those round the way Chris's? He needs to wash his ass.
I have a bidet. First.
I know. Well, I'm just... Come on, man. Let me do the joke.
I know, but...
Yeah, I know. It's probably cleaner than my butt. Unless I'm fresh out of the shower. Then it's tit for tat. It's 1-to-1.
Yeah.
And with that... History boys and dear listeners, that is the tragic and short life of Edgar Allan Poe.
I like the...
Have fun going to sleep tonight.
Yeah, spooky.
Yeah.
I like the Cask of Amontillado. That's
Montiato?
Yeah.
Montiato. That's a great story.
It's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
The guy gets buried behind a wall.
Yeah, it's dope. I like Telltale Heart quite a bit.
Yeah.
I like Premature Burial.
Mm.
Even Murders in the Rue Morgue. I actually like quite a bit because it's like, oh, it's a orangutan wielding a cleaver. That's
pretty
fucking
cool.
nuts.
It's pretty cool.
I know. I've seen the movie versions of. I've seen part of the movie version of The Fall of the House of Usher, and I have seen. He did Pit and Pendulum, right?
Dustin Jackson.
I didn't see that one in the theater. I saw it on home video, and it was tight. Did Edgar Allan Poe write that?
Yeah.
Okay.
He wrote
Monkey
Day Out. He wrote
Fall of the House of Usher is great. Ray Bradbury actually had a turn on it. It's really good. It's called Usher 2. It's a fantastic.
Electric
story.
Boogaloo.
I was gonna say that too.
It's really good.
Poe wrote.
It's about people banning books.
Kid in King Arthur's Court. You ever see that one?
Okay, yeah, I've seen that one, so I'm familiar with his work.
Angels in the Outfield.
And actually, in Bradbury's Usher 2, he takes a book banner and walls them inside of this mansion.
Mm-hmm.
On Mars, by the way, because it's Bradbury.
Well, and also, like, banning books, isn't that also his
like,
thing?
What if it was
That is his thing.
What if it was a cast of Amontillado on Mars?
Yeah. And it's House of Usher, too. Because he, blows up the house, too, as he flies away on a helicopter. It's fucking insane. I love Ray Bradbury. He's probably my favorite author, and he was highly influenced by Edgar Allan Poe.
I like
And again,
James
I Jesus. I would not be the person I am today without Edgar
I've
Allan
never
Poe.
read anything by Dean Koontz.
So
I haven't either.
Liar.
good for you.
I saw the hesitation.
I hope you all enjoyed it.
Thank you so much for listening. We are the History Boys. I am Christopher Whedon. I am signing off. I've really enjoyed our first spooky season episode, and I hope you guys did too.
Yes, indeed.
Hey, this is Tyler Armstrong, History Boy here. I just want to let you know that if you're scared, we're scared too. So we're all going to be terrified for the next 4 weeks, 5 weeks. Anyway,
a fortnight and a half.
Yeah,
Sure.
Or
So-
2 fortnights.
We got a
2.5 fortnights.
We got a lot of Saturdays for you this month.
yeah, we got a lot of Saturdays of spooky. It's coming your way. I hope you stay spooked, folks.
And in 2022, you're gonna get Zach back,
Yes, indeed.
but not until then.
Yeah,
Not until then.
we're
We
gonna
miss them.
We miss him as much as you do.
Yeah.
we're gonna
which is
bring
a
you
lot.
to the brink of the psychological breaking point of terror, and then we're just gonna bounce, and then Zach's back.
Yeah. And Zach did the whole podcast himself.
Yeah. And I am Jerry Nash, your humble history boy. Thank you so much again for listening, and I hope you stick with us for the rest of spooky season. We have some crazy shit planned for you, and I'm very excited for it.
The next episode is going to be the story of Jack Skellington.
Follow us on all the social medias, on your Facebook, on your Twitters, on your Instagrams. You can interact with us there. It's a lot of fun. You can see what we're into and the people we like to talk to.
You can see pictures of my cat on Instagram.
Indeed. They're all good podcasts that we interact with on a day-to-day basis, guys. We also have a Patreon. If you give even the lowest amount on Patreon, which is only $1 a month, you get access to our Discord, which is pretty dope because that's more intimate. You get to really hang out with us and look
And you
at
get to
what we're looking
talk
at.
to the other Patreon patrons that are also big fans of the show. You're going to have so
all
much in
over the
common.
country, all over the world. We haven't had anyone international yet, I don't think.
Not on the Discord, no.
Not on the Discord. But soon.
We'll
soon.
get to it.
We will get it. Let's see. What else?
5-star review.
Leave us a 5-star review wherever you find us. Apple Podcasts being the main one. Again, we always hope you enjoy these episodes, and we love you so much, especially our loyal listeners. And you know what? I'm gonna do the thing. Love you. Goodbye.